G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Marky, back at it again with another r/entitled parents video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Steve Irwin. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody Karens. Now our first post is by user ColeCola99, titled, "Entitled parent threatened to kick me out after I have a seizure." So before I start getting into the actual experience here, I should provide some background information so this hits harder. First of all, I am a 20-year-old type 1 diabetic since I was 2 years old. I am also an epileptic since I was about 10. Now I am also diagnosed with anxiety and depression, which weirdly enough shows the symptoms for my diabetes and epilepsy. Basically, if I'm anxious or depressed, I'll either show in my blood sugar with spikes or drops, or I'll just have an epileptic seizure, despite taking meds. Now, my mother is on a different level of uniqueness? She's been a paraplegic since her 20s, and while she has a service dog to help her with everything, she will force me awake at like 6 in the morning to help her with literally anything she can think of, even though her dog can do it. I go upstairs probably about 20 times a day, ranging from cleaning to baking. Now, since my diseases, it's not safe for me to have a job, as it actually causes me to have seizures at work. This is important because, for the past few months, my mother is either forcing me to take like 4 university classes or get a full-time job. Basically, she's sentencing me to endless seizures, which, if I fall the wrong way, I could get brain damage, break my neck or skull, or even kill myself. Today was the worst. I had a seizure this morning, and when my boyfriend practically revived me, crying from stress, he took me upstairs. Explaining I had a seizure, this is the conversation. I didn't even make it up the stairs before she started ranting at me, and blaming me for everything, and saying that because of this seizure, I had to get them under control or she was going to kick me out, even though I have no money, nor can I work. I also can't get into disability yet because of this whole COVID thing. I had to leave cause she can't do this anymore. My boyfriend pulled me away downstairs and told her off, but she still ranted. But he ended it with, "What the hell? Your son just had a seizure and hit his head and you're making it about yourself." Her response was to frick off. Planning on moving out with him to his sister's for a while, but this is my daily life so far. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Alright, and our next post is by user Sleepy Inc., titled, "Entitled Mother Leaves Her Son at a Party So She Can Smoke Weed." Disclaimer, this story is in no way intended to criticize marijuana or the people who smoke it. The cast are me, myself, EM, our dreaded entitled mother, CP, cute boy, SF, stepfather, SU, step-uncle, M is my mum. Love you, mum. So this happened last summer. My stepfather got invited to a family barbecue that was being hosted by his brother, step-uncle, and me and my mum decided to tag along. We got there without incident, and for the first hour or so, everyone was having a pretty great time. Food was good, the weather was great, everyone was laughing. Typical family barbecue. About 2 hours into the party, stepfather's daughter, the entitled mother, arrives with her son, choosing beggar. Just kidding, CB, which is a cute boy, who was about 3 when this went down. Almost as soon as she arrived, she set cute boy loose into the yard so he could play, and instantly started complaining to the other guests about how difficult it was to get there, how expensive gas money was, how difficult cute boy was being, etc. Putting aside the fact that she came to the party out of the blue, with no indication that she wanted to come, and how she was bringing everyone down with her complaints. The main issue of the situation was that she just let cute boy roam around this yard unattended. Now, this yard is huge, with a very deep slope that leads into a busy street and a small hill towards the back of the property that leads to the woods, with a pretty deep creek. On top of that, cute boy is autistic, with a few other special needs to boot, so he tends to wander off and get lost a lot. Needless to say, this whole situation was making me very nervous. So as we were talking by the grill, I was constantly looking over my shoulder to see just where cute boy was, and what he was doing. After a few minutes, however, entitled mother spoke up. She says, OP, let him play on his own. He doesn't need you breathing down his neck. I'm just worried that he might get hurt, or go a little too far into the woods. What are you, a child expert? You don't have any children of your own. What would you know about any of this? Well, OP is studying in college to work with children. You are? Yeah, I want to get my degree in child developmental psychotherapy. After I said that, Entitled Mother went silent for a bit and the conversation ended there. About 20 minutes later, Cute Boy came running up to us and told us he had to go potty. Entitled Mother suggested that I should show him where it was, because I had been to Step Uncle's house more than she had. I thought it was a bit odd, but I didn't mind, because I love Cute Boy and I'm always happy to help out. So we go inside and I help him get to the toilet and wash his hands, no problem. However, by the time we came back, both Entitled Mother and her car were gone. I quickly asked my mum where she went, but she had no idea. So I'm rushing around this party, asking pretty much everyone there if they know where Entitled Mother drove off to, which was a resound no from everyone. At this point, stepfather, step-uncle, and mum are all trying to contact Entitled Mother. Cute Boy is slowly getting more and more upset because he doesn't know where his mother is. I try to calm him down, telling him it's just going to be me and him chilling for a while until his mother came back. He quickly perked up and started to play around with a few toys laying around for the kids to play with. 4 hours pass before Entitled Mother comes back to the party. Cute Boy runs up to her and gives her a hug, basically the only person happy to see her right now. That's when Stepfather and Step-Uncle storm up to her and start questioning her. Stepfather says, "Where the hell were you? Cute Boy was worried sick. I'm a grown adult, I don't have to tell you where I am every 5 seconds, chill out. You were gone for 4 hours without telling us where you were going or when you would be back. You can't do that." "Well, OP is here, so I can." "What are you talking about? She's majoring in child whatever in college. Isn't her future job to watch kids all day? That doesn't mean you can abandon your son." At this point I knew I had called upon the cursed wrath of the entitled parents. "How dare you? I did not abandon him. I came back. What? I can't have fun anymore? He's a good boy. You should feel honored to care for him. I go to smoke weed one time, and now you are all on my case like I'm a bad mother? You don't even have children, so how would you know? You were smoking weed? Does smoking weed take that long? I don't think Entitled Mother intended for anyone to know that she was smoking weed, because after she realized that she outed herself to everyone, she grabbed Cute Boy and quickly drove off the property. I haven't heard from Entitled Mother since then. Stepfather told me that she has sent him a ton of text messages about how I'm a terrible person and how I should cut ties with his side of the family. Honestly, I'm not that concerned about her trash talking. As selfish as this may sound, I'm more upset over the fact that instead of enjoying the rest of the party, I had to spend 4 hours babysitting while trying to track down Entitled Mother. But hey, karma I guess. Okay, so something crazy happened yesterday, which is totally ironic seeing as I just posted this story. So Entitled Mother got arrested. I haven't gotten all of the details yet, but from what I've been told, Entitled Mother got caught with possession of marijuana. Weed is illegal in my state. She hasn't been able to post bail as of the time I am posting this update. SF has refused to post her bail, much to the Entitled Mother's horror. SF has taken temporary custody of Cute Boy until this whole thing gets sorted out, although Step-Uncle has expressed a lot of interest in becoming Cute Boy's legal guardian, and has even begun, just today, to build a fence around his yard, so Cute Boy can't wander away if he came to live there. I'll try to update this post as I get more details on the situation. Alright, and our next post is by the same OP, titled, "Entitled Mother Tries to Poison My Cat Because I Wouldn't Let Her Have Him." Hi again everyone, just got off of a 40-hour shift, so that means it's story time. If you are new to my Entitled Mother stories, I suggest you go to my account and read my 2 other r/entitled parents posts to get a sense of who we are dealing with. Everyone else, you know the drill. Note, this happened 2 years ago to clear up any confusion. Cast are me myself, CB Cute Boy, AB Awesome Brother, EM Entitled Mother, insert thunder sounds, SD Stepdad, M is Mum. So, I have a pet cat named Squish. Guys, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I adore this freaking cat. My brother and I found him abandoned in a cardboard box when he was a newborn. He hadn't even opened his little eyes yet. We took him home and quite literally begged on our knees until our mum said we could keep him. Ever since, Squish has been a part of our family. Now, something I need you guys to understand is that this cat is very attached to our family. He will run to the door to greet us if he hears our voices. He will paw at any of us to pick him up and cuddle him. He will even try to pick up cat treats and take them to me and my brother to try to share them with us. Point is, my family loves Squish and Squish loves us back. Remember this, it becomes important later. Enter our entitled mother, EM. She and her son, Cute Boy, had come over to our house for an afternoon to visit and stay for dinner. At first, this visit was going perfect. Entitled Mother wasn't being a total jerk, Cute Boy was having a free time. Seemed like a smooth evening, right? Yeah, not with Entitled Mother. Me, my brother, Cute Boy, and Entitled Mother were all in the living room, playing with Squish when Entitled Mother started talking. Cute Boy loves Squish so much. What's not to love, he's such a bean. Yeah, so I've been meaning to get Cute Boy a cat. That's cool, I'm sure he would love to have a little pet. Yeah, he would, but most pet stores are so expensive. Well, I would go to an animal shelter if I were you. There are plenty of pets there that need some love, and I think it might be cheaper than a pet store. Oh, I don't think you get it. I don't want to have to pay for a cat. Well, you know you can't have Squish, right? And why can't I? First, because he's not your cat. Second, because he's already has a forever home. Third, he is very attached to us, and I don't think it would be right to take him away from his family. Cute Boy deserves a nice cat. He's a good boy. Then go to a shelter like OP said. There are tons of cats there that need a home. Those cats are boring. I want your cat. No, but I'm not having this discussion with you, Entitled Mother. The answer is no. Drop it. By some miracle, that actually worked for a bit. The night continued as planned. After dinner, Cute Boy was getting a bit restless, so we decided to take him outside and play. Entitled Mother claimed she had an important phone call to make, so she would stay inside. I was suspicious, but I didn't push it. Me, AB, and Cute Boy played around in the backyard for about 20 minutes, while Mum and Stepdad sat on the porch. I got pretty thirsty from chasing an energetic toddler around, so I went inside to get some water from the fridge. I went into the kitchen, and never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined what I saw. There was Entitled Mother in front of the counter with a now empty bottle of epilepsy medication. She was using a spoon to crush up my pills, and she had an unopened can of wet cat food standing by. Needless to say, it didn't take long for me to put two and two together. Something I need you guys to know about me is that I don't get angry often. I get upset, annoyed, frustrated, etc. But it is rare for me to get truly furious at someone. Seeing her there in my home, trying to poison my Squish, just clicked something in my brain. I felt my chest get hot and tight, and the corners of my vision were turning red as I stomped up to confront her. I say, what the hell are you doing? OP, it's not what it Oh, I think it is what it looks like. So I'm going to let you try again. What the hell are you doing? Well, you wouldn't let me have him, so you're trying to fudging poison him? It's not like I didn't give you an option. I asked you to give him to me and you said no. Take this as a lesson, never refuse a request by someone who is older than you. She then continued to crush up the pills. Now, I am not a strong or big person by any means. I am 4'4", and Entitled Mother is 5'7". That size difference has always been a big reason as to why I try not to get physical with her. But I was just so mad and worried that she was actually going to poison the cat that I just acted. I grabbed her wrist and said very firm, "Stop." She then proceeded to stop, then turns around, grabs me by my hair, and pulls as hard as she possibly could. I started to scream at the top of my lungs, and that was enough to get my mum and stepdad to come in and see what's going on. Entitled Mother lets go of my hair, and my mother proceeds to tear into Entitled Mother. How dare you grab my child like that? Well, she grabbed my wrist. I don't give a frick what she did. You have no right to touch my child like that. I'll get you arrested for assault. Sweetheart, I'm going to be arrested for your murder if you don't get the hell out of my house. I guess that was enough to scare entitled mother, because she quickly grabbed the cute boy and drove off of our property as fast as she could. I filled my mum in on what happened after she left, and my mother got a scary look in her eyes. She grabbed my stepdad by the collar of his shirt, dragged them to their bedroom, and stayed there for about 3 hours. When they emerged, stepdad said that entitled mother was no longer allowed to come to our house. Happy to say that Squish still lives with us, and is as happy as healthy as he can be. The best part of this story is that, ever since this happened, my mother makes a point to tag entitled mother in random pictures of our cat from time to time. Alright, and our next post is by user GodTierFapper, titled, Entitled Mother Yanks My 81-year-old Dad Out of the Way at the Local Supermarket. I've been taking care of my parents for the last 2 months, while during this coronavirus. I've tried forcing them to stay in, but there are some things that they refuse to give up. Going to the grocery store is one of them. We were at the store in front of the pastor when 3 young girls come flying down the aisle in front of us. The first girl slammed into my father's cart. The other 2 weren't far behind us and stumble over the first girl who fell over. My dad, being a normal human being, tries to check on the girl. Next thing, I see a rather large woman who I assume to be their mum lumbering down the aisle. My dad was offering his hand to the girl when her mum grabs my dad by the shoulder and yanks him to the side. My dad, who isn't the most fleet-footed in the best of times, falls into the shelves and onto his ass. I run to check on him, and luckily enough he seems to be fine. I look back at the woman expecting an apology or something the like, to hear her betraying my father. She's holding her daughter at this point, and I didn't want to scream in a child's face, but I did demand an apology for assaulting my father. She continues berating my father and me and storms off. Luckily, my dad is no worse for wear and has a grin on his face. He thought the whole ordeal was hilarious and says, "You can't fix stupid." I'm still seething, which is why I'm writing this to vent. And our next post is by user Warlady22, titled, Entitled Parents at My Job. Several quickies, nothing too big. I am ready to torch my job down to avoid everyone. First off, every single damn parent asking for toilet paper when we had none. I adore my assistant manager Tom. One entitled mother kept clapping in his face every time he told her they had nothing back there. Check the back. Again, clap. My baby needs it. Then Tom clapped back in her face. I checked 4 times today. They are not going to suddenly appear after the 5th time. She started screaming, but he just walked away. Second, we had shoplifters. Someone trying to shoplift food, candy, small products. But we have our people going up and down the aisles all day, so no one is getting away with it. Yes, it becomes a screaming match with these entitled people, parents mostly, who feel like they deserve to get their stuff for free. One guy even threw a frickin' sucker punch at someone because he wasn't allowed to steal it. Third, we got toilet paper delivered last week, and we have a 2 per person rule. Yes, arguments abound with people wanting more than that, but we don't want them to get away with taking more. This one guy put up 3 packages onto the counter. I scanned 2, but told him I wouldn't scan the last item. So guess what he does? He looks me right in the eye, picks up the 4th package and coughs all over it, getting spit and whatnot all over it. He put it back down, grinning at me. Now what are you gonna do with it? Thanking my manager for enforcing the use of gloves, I picked up the package without looking away from the guy, reached under the counter for the disinfectant wipes we have down there, and pulled out 2 of them. The man gave me this really angry look as I wiped down the package from the top to the bottom. I used a 3rd wipe as he is gearing up to yell at me, and I pull out the rolls behind the counter. I gave him a sweet smile. He explodes at me as I ring him up with that smile. I may be autistic and yelling does make me upset, but the sound of another coworker laughing at this guy helped me endure as I finished ringing the guy up. He called me every dirty name he can think of, which at this point in time I had heard at least 3 times daily since the pandemic started. I really wish I was exaggerating. He paid and walked out of there ranting. I wiped down the package a fourth time, and the manager took it back to the shelf. I would throw it out to be honest, but we had to make a sale. Finally, Tom got us some lockers that look somewhat like these. They look kinda dope, not gonna lie. We have to have bins with our names on them and the back for our coats and such. However, too many customers have been caught going through our things and even flat out stealing items. Tom is the best assistant manager. He went out and bought us those lockers. We still have people trying to break into them, but up until today, no one has gotten into them. Today, however, someone was able to. When I came into work today, I saw a police car leaving the parking lot with someone in the back and someone taking a crying kid. I couldn't tell the gender to another car. I asked someone what happened. Apparently, this parent came in and went into the back room. Somehow, he got 2 of the lockers opened and started putting things in his bag with this kid was holding. Money, their own supply of disinfectants, their lunch, anything they could put in the bag. He was caught, of course, by one of the employees and the police was called. And I was told it was just going to get worse. Ugh, not looking forward to this. And our next post is by user Phoenix_BFN, titled, "A mother and child try to steal my dog." So for some backstory, I have a dog named Archie. We have had him since last summer and have loved him ever since. For people asking for pictures of him, I think there's one on Reddit somewhere. Anyways, I took him out for a walk today into the forest near my house like I usually do. The walk went as usual, up until we were on our way back home. We had just reached our neighbor's fence when I heard a scream and running behind us. It was a, I'm guessing 5-year-old boy running towards us, her mother behind him. I have gotten used to this type of reaction when walking with Archie. He is a white West Siberian Lyca, so people seeing him and gasping isn't really anything special to me, but this felt different. Here comes the following convo. Kay's like, "What's his name?" "His name's Archie. You may pet him, he doesn't hurt you." "Hello, what a nice dog you got. What breed is he?" "Thanks. He's in West Siberian Lyca." "Are you sure he's a Lyca? Looks like a Samoyed to me." "They do look similar, but Samoyeds have thicker fur." "Look kid, I'm older than you and know more about everything than you do. He's a Samoyed. Bet you don't feed him properly and that's why he's so skinny." Search images of Siberian Lycas and compare them to Samoyeds. They look different. I kneel down to the kid and I say, "Hey kid, me and Archie are going to go home now. If you want to see him again, then he is in the yard a lot every single day." "Okay, bye Archie." By the way, the kid was the cutest 5-year-old I have ever seen. So we had gotten back home and I was casually relaxing indoors. I let Archie outside because my mum was in the backyard. Sometime later, my mum came inside, leaving Archie outside. Couple minutes passed and I hear Archie barking and similar sounding voices outside. Archie barks all the time when someone walks past, but what made me look outside were the voices. It was the kid again patting Archie, but I couldn't see the kid's mother, who I assumed was the other voice. I walked out of the front door to see the mother opening our front gate to let Archie out. I rushed over to her to talk to her. "What are you doing?" "You are mistreating your dog. I am letting him free." "We saved that dog from a man who beat him with a metal pipe. Stop what you're doing or I'll call the police." Because the front gate opens inward, I just leaned on it so she couldn't open it. The entitled mother literally grabbed me from my jacket and punched me straight in my face. I fell down to the ground, which allowed her to just push the gate open. Then she asked the kid to come over to her. Archie, of course, followed the kid. Then, just like in a movie, my neighbor who had seen everything happened to walk up to us, wearing a leather jacket, sunglasses, and holding a replica lever-action shotgun. He looked like a frickin' Terminator. He quickly told the mother to get back and got Archie back in my yard. The entitled mother was frozen in place, meanwhile her son didn't even care and was petting Archie again. My mum had already called the cops when she noticed that some stranger was trying to steal Archie, so the waiting didn't take long. After some civilized talking, entitled mother was accused of attacking me, entering private property, trying to steal Archie, and attacking a police officer after she tried to tear one's face off when she was asked to get inside the police car. Mom's new boyfriend starts acting as if he would be my dad, and at first made her back him through smart lies. till he overplayed his hand big time. Satisfying karma at the end. Let me first give you some background so you get where people are coming from. My father has left a few years prior, my mum bought a small house from the money from the divorce, and a few months after has gotten herself a boyfriend. At first I was truly happy she had moved on, but soon I realized she had fallen for some real piece of crap. Now, you need to understand, my father was an alcoholic and a narcissist, so my mum's normal meter was truly broken. Anybody treating her halfway decent must have appeared like a Prince Charming to her. So please do not judge her too harshly for her choice. I don't. Now, he was not only halfway decent, he really treated her well, though he was an a-hole to me. He brought her flowers, went out to eat regularly, etc. But what I realized, and she did not, was that he was a parasite. He had maybe $100 to his name, and his only income as support from the state, a couple $100. Now, I already hear you ask, how did he afford flowers and going out? By living rent-free and having all of his costs paid for till he gets back on his feet. One last thing, as the headline already told you, he soon started to show an immense entitlement towards me. Basically, he said this is his house, so now I have to follow his rules. Of course, I told him that this is my mum's house, not his, and I do not have to do jack crap unless my mum tells me so. He took that really badly, since he had an ego problem, as you probably already guessed. I tried to tell my mum, but she would not believe me since he always acted very nice to me when she was around. But as soon as she was, no, the Cold War started. He pulled a lot of small crap, like demanding in a patronizing voice that I bring him some beer while watching TV with me, while Mum was on the loo. When she came back, he told her he had asked me nicely to bring me a beer when I stood up to get something, but I refused, insulted him, and sat back down. So of course she told me to apologize and get him beer again. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't let me, so he kept pulling petty bullcrap to establish dominance. After this whole story, I asked my mum why she would always believe him and not let me explain. Apparently, he had told her I was super jealous that he was in the house, and wanted to get rid of him by trying to make him look bad, so she backed him to show me he is not going anywhere. Time for the main account. I had gone out the night from Friday to Saturday and had come back at 3 AM. My mom was gone over the weekend, and he fudging exploded. How dare I disrespect him like that coming home this late? I told him calmly he does not get to declare a curfew on me, and my mum allows me coming home this late, which is true provided I stay at the house of 3 specific people I am friends with, and whose parents are my mum's friends. He flipped out even more and called me a dirty liar. He then gave me the classic, as long as you put my legs under his table, and me being a smartass of course answered, this is my mum's and my house. You are a guest here. He screamed at me that he's going to kick me out of the house and I will not be allowed back till my mum returns. I screamed back he cannot do that since this is not his house. I threatened to call my mum. He, emboldened by her backing him up all the time, told me to do just that. But I better not lie to her and tell her what is actually happening. I put her on speaker and told her, he is trying to kick me out of the house till you come back Monday. It was Saturday. She did not believe me, and told me to put him on the line. So he started by telling her I disrespected him as the man of the house by coming home so late, and lying to him about this being okay when I stay at a friend's house, and that I need to learn to respect him. So it is up to him how he disciplines me, since she is not there. Then he lied and said he told me to be home by 1 AM. For the first time, he let his mask slip, and she picked up on it right away. She says, so let me get this straight. I allow my son to be out till 3, but you think you get to overrule my decision on my son, and now you think you get to kick my son out of his house? He realized he screwed up. He tried to get her to take his side, but only dug his hole deeper. He says, well, he keeps not respecting me in my own house. If you let him win now, he will never respect me. And you think the right punishment for disrespect is to kick him out for 2 days? Yes, finally you get it. I knew you would come around. Well, he did nothing wrong, since he was allowed to go out that long. You have no right just to overrule my decisions on my son. But I am not done. Apparently, you think the right punishment for your disrespect is to kick you out till midday. But I only have $100. This is not fair. Where am I supposed to go? I am sure my son had even less money, and you did not give a crap. You've got 30 minutes to leave. I tell the neighbor to check. If you are still here in half an hour, he will call the police and have you trespassed. When I come home Monday, we will talk. I am such an idiot that I kept believing you over my son. Once Mum came home, I told her how he kept pulling this bullcrap on me, and she was so sorry she kept backing him up. I had tried to tell her many times he treated me exactly like my father did when she was not around. One major reason for the divorce. But since he treated her so differently and acted so differently than my father, she believed him that I was jealous and tried to get rid of him. But when she heard him say these words my father said so many times, "You owe me respect since you live in my house," she suddenly realized I was telling the truth all along, while he was the liar. This is why she got furious so fast. She never realized how badly he really treated me and how entitled he acted since he had hidden it so well before. But when he started to talk about deserving respect in his own house, something my father kept saying, from me, a house he did not put a penny into but was somehow his. Even worse was thinking he could overrule her on her own son. My father kept overruling her decisions. So she finally saw through him and got all the evidence she needed. I was telling the truth all along. They broke up that Monday. He never even got back into the house. They met for a coffee and she demanded her keys back. Originally, she wanted to give him a month, but when she entered the bar they met at, he right away started to scream at her how dare she kick him out of the house like this, and that now he would never get the respect from me he is entitled to. So she told him she is only here to ask for her keys back and that they are through. P.S. I did not know if this belonged here or in Entitled People. It fits for both, so I posted in both. Alright, and our next post is by user Sheep Queen, titled, "I don't care what you do to your body. I don't want you making us look bad to your therapist." So this is a story that I thought I'd tell. I've posted about my father and stepmother before. This time I figured I'd pick a highlight from when I was 16 going on 17. Please keep in mind that I've blocked a lot out reflexively, so I'll be paraphrasing as best I can. The title itself are quotes I remember as clearly as day though. It all started with my self-harming. I don't remember when it began, but it started after my grades started going down. My stepmother, father, and I would have constant screaming matches, or we would argue over my grades, leaving me to dissolve into tears. Many a night I spent crying myself to sleep or self-harming to get rid of the feeling of being a disappointment to them. I remembered when I finally told my stepmother about my self-harm. At first she asked me something along the lines of, "Do you want to go to a mental hospital?" Yeah, that scared me, so I said no. We had argued about it after, to which she finally said, "I don't care what you do to your body." Somewhere in this time, I had talked to my dad about possibly moving in with my grandparents to finish my last 2 years of high school, which would give me a calmer environment to focus on my studies and to improve myself away from a toxic environment. My father had said no, saying at first to the idea of counseling that you don't need someone to solve your problems for you. Not even a month later, my then best friend got the school guidance counselor involved over my self-harm, and she sat down with my mother, father, and stepmother to show them that I needed help for my depression. He took me to get evaluated by the county in order to find out which fit me better, being put on suicide watch or being inducted to therapy through the county mental health. They deemed that I would go to see a counselor after showing her where I did the self-harming, calling me brave for seeking help. I had wanted to improve my life and have a better future. After my first or second therapy session, my stepmother asked me what I had talked to my therapist about. I declined to tell her, saying that I wasn't comfortable discussing it yet. She got angry and offended, saying, "You're probably making us look like bad parents to her." It was clear she didn't want to respect my privacy. After a few more sessions, my father and stepmother complained that my sessions cost too much money, around $126 a session or so, and told me I'd have to pay half if I wanted to keep going. They forced me to agree, as by then I was 17 and I needed to be responsible for myself. I managed to pay half in one session before I had to stop going. Years later, I've got no contact with them, for the better. I wish this had a better ending, but sometimes entitled parents win. It's not always a happy ending. Alright, and our next post is by user Taipan821, titled Entitled Parents vs Firefighters. Another story from several years ago. Another bushfire, another community at risk. The plan is simple. Start a backburn along the back fences of the community to create a fire break and to contain the fire. The wind is blowing towards the community, so the backburn will be going against the wind. Good conditions. So we start lighting up the bush. 90% of the residents pit up with the smoke and either close windows and doors or come up and talk to us over the fence, asking if they can do anything. Now, I will take this time to mention that we were full-face respirators to protect our lungs from the smoke. We can barely talk out of them, and when you are next to a running pump, you can barely hear anything. So back to the story. We are walking along and pause at a house to monitor the burn. There is quite a fuel load, so we want to make sure it is burnt. Don't notice anything until we see a resident trying to use our second hose line. What? A quick discussion ensues. This mother had come out to inform us that the smoke was affecting her kid. Okay, this happens, so what? She had come out to demand that we put out the fire we were lighting, and when we ignored her, she decided to do it herself. A quick apology, it's noisy, we didn't hear you. She is understanding, but still insists that we put out the fire or give her kid one of our masks. No, I am not going to affect my health for your kid. Also, he hasn't done the course. We advise her to close the windows and doors, but we are going to burn to protect her house. This is where she demands to see our commander, who at this point in time is hiding in the cab. He gets out, walks up to her, and issues an on-the-spot fine for obstruction of an emergency service. Let's just say for a while after the incident, the bush behind her property was burnt quite regularly. After all, we have to reduce the hazard to the community. Alright, and our next post is by user Imaginary-Broccoli6. Titled, Entitled Family Aunt Desecrates a Family Grave to Obtain a Priceless Family Heirloom for Herself. Yes, the title is very real, and I cannot wait to tell you what happened this here. And in case this question comes up, the family is on my father's side, my grandmother's mother. So several months ago, before the lockdown occurred, my great-grandmother, GGM, passed away from old age. She was 108. In the early life, she worked as a jeweler. She made beautiful jewelry for the entire village she worked in. Her most prized jewelry was a rare opal ring she kept with her at all times. It is extremely valuable and she never ever takes it off unless it's for cooking or bathing. EFA was always jealous of the ring because she keeps saying, I never have nice things, just like her family, even though her background comes from a pretty wealthy family. Her children at the time were already back with her after they spent a few months in an orphanage until such time she was fit to be a mother again. Her children are the most criminally insane pieces of crap you will ever meet. They have no sense of what belongs to who, and would simply take and take and take. One time, they took my phone and got angry because they couldn't unlock it, which is a story for another day. Anyways, back to my great-grandmother. I was very, very close to GGM, as she was always telling me her stories about finding certain jewels during her many, many travels. Her family was poor, but that didn't stop her when she grew up. She basically helped them out of the poor side with her skills. During the will reading and instructional works for the funeral, my great-grandmother said that she specifically be buried with the opal ring. Any of the other jewels, on the other hand, went to me. EFA did not like this. She demanded that great-grandmother give her the opal ring, at least as she deserves since she is part of the family, even though genetically she isn't. The will stated that any requests will be immediately denied, as great-grandma spent years to make sure everyone got a fair deal on the will. I was most surprised by her generosity, since she hardly trusted anyone in handling her large collection. By the way, she had like 150 different jewels. EFA was warned by her lawyer that she would get nothing if she ever made a fuss. Which, by the way, she did get her watch, which she didn't know was worth like 50,000 euros. EFA got furious that she just got a stupid old watch, while everyone else got something way better than her. Not true. My uncle got her car, which hasn't started for 20 years. EFA stormed out with her kids and husband, my uncle that got the car, and never showed up until the funeral. It was a simple funeral, just talking about how she was in the past. Her crazy antics, like that time she accidentally set her house on fire. Don't leave the grease pot nearby, kids. And of course her many travels in her youth to many countries to make her precious jewels. Said goodbye to her, and so on. She was buried in our large estate of all our families buried. That was right? Wrong. EFA and her family, including my uncle, wanted to stay with us for a while as we were still grieving. She gave a crap about that except for uncle, so we agreed to have them stay with us just for a few days. On the second day, I was making myself a drink when I noticed EFA cleaning something with many cleaning products. I said, "EFA, what are you doing?" "Oh, hi OP, this ring is amazing on me, right?" "Where did you get that ring?" "Oh, from GGM, of course. I talked with her lawyer, and he couldn't bear to see that gone, so he gave it to me." "I don't believe you for a second. Tell me where you got that ring, or I'm telling Uncle." "I don't know what you're talking about. I got this ring fair and square." "Alright, I believe you." And I left the room. I went outside just to think what to do. Go to the police or go to my grandma and the lawyer. So I called the lawyer and told her what happened. "Are you sure you saw GGM's opal ring?" "Yes, I'm positive." "Alright, I'm gonna call the police. See me at the estate." So I got in my car and drove straight there. What we saw was gruesome. Dirt everywhere and broken stones, and GGM's coffin halfway open with her ring and the finger missing. I can't tell you how much of a gruesome sight this was. Like, I blinked many times thinking it wasn't real, but it was. I was sick in my stomach of how much someone would go for just for a stupid ring. Like, I get you're angry bitch, but don't go starting to desecrate a family gravesite. I called my uncle and told him what had happened. He also couldn't believe it. He was also wondering whether to call the cops or not after seeing the opal ring on EFA's finger. The police came and arrested EFA for grave robbing, misdemeanor, and desecration of a family gravesite, theft, and breaking and entering. I did not know there was such a thing as grave robbing or desecration of a family gravesite, but apparently it's a thing. The extended family got light of what happened, and practically shunned EFA before her sentencing, and due to the severity of the crime, the court was done rather quickly without a jury. EFA admitted that the children played part in it as well, although they had no clue that their so-called treasure hunt was to steal a family heirloom. I didn't believe that for a second. They see a body, yet they continue to steal from it. Without a heartbeat, the judge sentences her to 3.5 years in prison, should be more, and 4 years probation. As well as her children being taken away again, she was also fined 25,000 euros for damages in the estate. Since she hasn't done anything to the ring, that was a short sentence, only 6 months. But because she practically cut a finger off a dead body, that kinda gave 3 more years. Fortunately, Uncle couldn't take care of the kids because biologically, they are not his kids. Previous marriage of EFA, and financially he wasn't stable enough to take care of all 3 of them. EFA pleaded with the judge to reduce the sentence but was immediately denied, saying that this has shed light on her very selfish behavior. Despite being a good know-it-all POS, she has had trouble in her youth with theft of such similar crimes. So while she is in prison, she will also be investigated. Only just 2 weeks ago, everything was finalized with her. I was contemplating whether to post this or not. After she was arrested, we went no contact with her. The children have been put with a distant relative of EFA's in another country. Uncle went back home taking care of things to move back to our town. He is better now that she is gone. I am sure some of you will ask, what did I do with the jewels that I inherited? I put it in a private safety box in the bank so if ever I need some cash, I could sell the jewels to jewel shops or auctions, and considering there are 150 of them, I won't be having an issue. Edit, my family on my father's side is not near rich, but we have close ties with many people. We are like a mafia, but friendly-ish. My great-grandmother, despite her wealth, was a very kind-hearted woman and nowhere near a description of an old crone. She was willing to help anyone if you asked her nicely. Friend, family, friend of a friend, family of another family, the list goes on. I still mourn her death, but she lived an amazing life. Oh, that was a nice one. Anyway guys, on to our next post by user This One Knows Things, titled Entitled Mother Yells at Me for Drinking on My Own Porch. I get that quarantine has everyone on edge, but holy crap. So this happened yesterday. It was really nice out, so I thought I'd take a break from writing all the papers to sit out on my porch with a nice glass of wine. Since I live on the first floor of the complex, I have a small green patch where I have a bird feeder set up and some flowers. Past that is the public sidewalk, and there are no fences, so it's all pretty open. I take a chair out the sliding glass door onto the patio/porch. I forget the difference. Leave the screen door closed so my cat can get a bit of the outdoor air, and plop down and pour myself a glass of Cabernet. At that point in the day, the sunlight was right on my porch, so my cats were laying in the sunbeams right behind me. As I'm just watching the day go by, seeing the occasional dog on the walk, or people just taking a stroll, a little kid, about 5 or so, comes up into my view, trying to jump from sidewalk square to square. I hear the mum somewhere out of my line of sight say, "Don't go too far ahead." So he stops where he is and looks around. He sees me and my cat's in behind the screen. "Look mum," he says, "those kitties are the same colour as S'more." I guess his cat is also a calico. By this point, the mum catches up and glances in my direction to see what he's pointing at. "Oh yeah," she says. Then she looks over to me and her tone changes quickly. "What the hell are you doing?" "Me?" I say, a bit thrown back. "Yes you, what do you think you're doing? You can't drink here, there are student dorms." These are actually just apartments unaffiliated with the university, but since they're across from campus, pretty much only students live here, so many thinks it's another dorm. "I'm over 21. "No you're not, these are student dorms." I guess she forgot that students can also be over 21. "I'm pretty sure I'm over 21. "Don't you talk back to me? Get rid of that drink right now, you can't drink in public." I guess she decided to switch gears on how to get me to get rid of my drink. So she starts walking towards me. Her kid comes too, I guess wanting a closer look at the cats. "Lady, I'm on my porch. I can drink wine if I want." She clearly didn't like me talking back, and she got angry. "I said get rid of that drink." She continues to approach, yelling at me like I'm her kid, and I won't put my toys away. By that point, the kid was on my porch looking at my cats through the porch screen. No, and I take a sip. "Get rid of it or I'm taking it." By this point, she's right in front of me, face red, hands on her hips, looming over me like that crap's gonna work on a 26-year-old. "No, now get off my porch," I said, standing up with my voice raised. By then, the cats had run off and the boy was bummed. We continue to stare each other down. I'm on my own porch, I'm not hurting anyone, and I'm 26. I'll drink on my porch if I want. I take another swig in front of her. Entitled Mother then smacks the wine out of my hand, and it nearly hits her kid as it shatters on the floor. "What the hell, lady?" "I told you to get rid of that drink," she yells, not at all worried that her kid could have gotten hit. "Screw you." I shoved her and tried to pick up the big pieces so her kid didn't get cut. He was wearing sandals after all. Her kid runs off back to the sidewalk. "How dare you push me? How dare you destroy my property? Get the hell off of my porch or—" I started waving around the broken glass pieces and she took that as a threat. "Are you threatening me?" I actually wasn't. I just get expressive with my hands when I'm mad, and I happened to have the broken glass in them. But by this point, I'm fed up with this bitch. I'm like, "Yes, now get the hell off my property." By this point, we had attracted a couple of onlookers, which Entitled Mother finally noticed. She looked around and saw a couple on the sidewalk gawking at her, as well as my neighbor sitting on his porch nearby. She looks around, her face, which was red with anger, was now red with embarrassment. She huffs and puffs and spins around, grabbing her kid's hand, and speed walks away from all of us as fast as she can. My neighbor asked if I was okay, and I said I was fine, just annoyed. I swept up the broken glass, went back inside and poured another glass, and watched some JoJo to get things off my mind. What a weird beer. Edit, wow, thanks for the 1k upvotes, even though I'm a crap Hammond user because I spilled the wine. Also, proper TLDR. Karen approaches. "Oh, you're approaching me? Instead of running away, you're coming right to me? I can't knock that I can't knock that wine out of your hand without getting closer. Oh ho, then come as close as you like. And I punched Entitled Mother into space. The end. Wasn't that epic, guys? I don't watch JoJo, so I don't know the character voices. I'm sorry, you anime fans. It really do be like that, though. Anyway, boys and girls, we're on to our next post by user Love Monster, titled, "Bitter entitled neighbor tries to seek revenge on my elderly friend. Fails every time." So I was going to post this ages ago, but I'm in the process of moving during the pandemic, so, This is not my story, but a friend of mine, who we will call Hilda. Hilda and I would meet every morning with a group of owners at the dog park, before self-isolation was in effect. Now, there's not a lot of details as Hilda is a straight-to-the-point kind of storyteller, and this happened a good few years ago. So Hilda is an elderly widow, and she lives alone, but has two gorgeous German shepherds whom are very well trained. They don't bark, they are good listeners, and can even walk off-leash with no fear of running too far away. She had a next-door neighbor, Bob, who is of similar age and lived with his wife. Bob is our entitled parent/grandparent. Now, since Hilda's dogs are so well behaved, the local postmen have no issues with them, and would even give them a quick pat. During one of her walks with the dogs, Hilda walked past Bob's house and offered a wave, but Bob just looked at her. Not too long after they got home from their walk, Hilda was greeted by a police officer at her door. P.O. is officer, H is Hilda. He says, "Good afternoon, how are you today?" "Good, thank you, can I help you?" "We got an anonymous tip about your dogs acting aggressively towards the postmen and your neighbors." "That can't be right. Are you sure they're my dogs?" "You own two German shepherds, right? May I see them?" "You mean these dogs?" Hilda called her two boys over, who then proceeded to greet the officer with tail wags and happy derpy faces. She even showed him how well trained they were. The officer shook his head, told her not to worry about it, and to have a good night. Hilda figured out Bob phoned in the bogus tip when she realized he was the only one in the neighborhood who saw her with the dogs. Now, I don't know how long it was since that incident, but Hilda found meat in her backyard. Spoiled, rotten meat. Of course, dogs can eat raw or old meat, but I'm pretty sure meat with green discoloration isn't good for them. Hilda caught Bob's grandchildren throwing the meat over the fence, with his wife providing it. She didn't blame the kids as they were young and probably thought it was a game, but she called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation, including the previous incident. Bob and his wife were only let off with a warning and a fine, as I guess it was considered either littering or destruction of property. I'm not sure. The final incident that wrapped everything up in a nice big bow was when Bob went on a full Jack Nicholson screaming rant in the middle of the street in front of Hilda's house. I wish I could tell you what he said, but not even Hilda knew what he was on about, as she just called the police as Bob was making threats and threatening gestures towards her house. Bob resisted arrest but was eventually taken away. After that, Hilda didn't know what happened to Bob and his wife. They just stopped living next door. She still was baffled why they targeted her until a mutual friend of Hilda and Bob mentioned something that jogged her memory. Bob and Hilda met each other way before they became neighbors. He had actually asked her out on a date, but she wasn't interested 30 years ago. This man got married, had children, had grandchildren, but needed to seek some sort of revenge on the woman who turned him down 30 years ago, whilst Hilda did all the same but didn't even remember who he was. I love Hilda. And I love Hilda too. What an absolute sweetheart and a gem. We don't deserve her. Alright, boys and girls, we're on to our possibly last story, I'm not sure, by user Daxarian, titled, "Entitled Aunts Wants to Decide Whom I'll Get Married to. OP stands up for himself for the first time." Hi, this is my first post out here and hence I apologize if I am doing it wrong. The characters of the story are OP, I, the all-knowing OP. Entitled Aunt 1, wife of my mum's oldest brother. Entitled Aunt 2, wife of my mum's older brother. C1, entitled Auntie 1's married daughter, my oldest cousin. And my mum, my mother, who is too sweet to say anything against anyone to their face. So, a while back, I decided to introduce my girlfriend to my family, and started having a mature discussion about me wanting to marry her and seeking their blessing. The challenge was that she was from a different religion. So dead. This was during a long weekend associated with a festival, and my extended family had gathered around at my grandmother's place. Things were going well, and I just pulled into the wedding of my older cousin to the discussion, and soon the conversation came to where I wanted it to come to. My wedding. Hooray! But boy, I was wrong. I wasn't being asked for an opinion there. Entitled Auntie 1 says, when it comes to OP's wedding, I think we all should have a say as to whom does he marry. Same woman who informed about her daughter's, my first cousin's wedding, just a week before that happened, but wants full control of my wedding. How cute. Yes, he is the only boy in our side. All my cousins on my mum's side are girls, and we have to be 100% involved in his wedding, so it is only fair that we get to decide the girl. This place is India, and arranged marriage is still lurking around here. Help. I just peeped at my sister, and she gave me a sympathetic nod as if to let me know that she understands how horribly all of this is turning out for me. In a while, on the table were names of girls they know that would be a good fit for me, and more garbage. So I decided to man up. I said, actually, I have a girlfriend. I showed them a picture of the girl, and then when they got to know that girl is from a different religion, they lost their crap. My parents were calm. Ticked at me doing this without discussing with them first, but calm. So that was a huge relief. My uncles were calm too. They were asking logical questions like, when do I plan to proceed? Do I have enough savings for a wedding? And more stuffs. But not my aunties. They were wailing and whining about how I was going to ruin the family reputation, and how I am ruining the name of my parents. How my aunts would have to be ashamed in front of all their family and the rest of the world because I decided to pick my partner. I have always been the nice kid in the family, had zero rebel traits, was always soft-spoken, so telling them about my girlfriend itself was a big move from my part. The next argument from EA1 was how my mother has raised me wrong, and that is what triggered the whole love in me. He is going to set a bad example for the rest of the kids around here. Yes, look at C1, she never fell in love with any man, and quietly married the boy we chose for her. She's so happy. C1 is in an abusive marriage with zero guts to divorce. She never had any guts to stand up for herself, and I am guessing you can figure out why. My mum cried a bit, and that is when I realized that 1, what the hell was I thinking? 2, I need to step up or have all of my cousins give up on their dreams because their brother could not stand up for himself. So I say EA1 and 2, you guys practically raised me when I was very young. I know you love me a lot. EA1, now calming down a bit. Yes, we do. I am 25 now. I would be marrying in another 2 years, and I would probably live to see 65. So how much is that? 40 more years and 38 years of marriage? I hardly get to see you these days. How many days do we see each other? 5 days a year? Let's consider 1 week. So in the next 40 years of my life, you would be seeing me for 40 weeks, and you might get to see my partner even less than that. Let's say 20 weeks. That is just 5 months or less. Can't my loving aunties pretend to like my wife for 140 days for me? And all of this, assuming that you'll be alive to see me turn 60, it would break my heart if you died before I did. That dinner was a very silent affair that day. I was in a coma for 6 years, and I was able to hear every single thing my entitled mother said about me. Hi guys, this is the first story of a friend of mine who I got permission from to write, but I will write it in first person as it will be easier to understand. Also, we'll be changing the gender multiple times because my friend didn't want anything known about them, not even gender. From here on, I will speak in first person mode. Okay, so I moved into a small but lovely house with my parents when I was 10. Though the house was small, it had a nice backyard with a tree. My father did his best to improve the house and the backyard, and always tried to make us happy. He works 6 days a week in a construction company, and we live on his job. He is the loveliest, most caring father ever. My entitled mother, however, never worked. She would sit all day on TV, smoking and drinking, which resulted in a lot of arguments between my parents. I hated these arguments and always ran away. My father built me a nice treehouse to play in and stay away from trouble. He then bought me a beautiful puppy who became my best friend and would always play with in the treehouse. Now, this all happened in a span of 3 years, so I was about 13. On to the story. One night, the argument really heated, and my entitled mother was screaming, saying that my dad should get another job as he isn't buying her expensive stuff like all of her friends' husbands do. It was a mess. So I sneaked out of my house with my puppy and went up to the treehouse, but I must have slipped, because the next thing I know I was on the ground with immense pain, and I can't move while my dog was barking non-stop. I regained my consciousness in the hospital and heard the doctor saying I was in a coma. I was so confused, as I was clearly conscious but I wasn't able to open my eyes or move at all. My dad was talking to the doctor regarding my health, while entitled mother was talking with the nurse about the prices. Her frickin' daughter was in the hospital in a coma, and all she cared about was the price. I was transferred back home with a special device for my respiratory, which was huge, important for later. It was so terrifying and sad that they are right there feeling terrible, but you can't reach them. Anyways, my father used to come to me every day and start telling me about his day. It was the only entertainment that I had in this state. Then he would start turning me over and rubbing my hands and feet for blood circulation. Then he would leave. Entitled mother always thought my dad was being ridiculous, talking to a lifeless body. My puppy, though, never left my side, as if he knew that I was conscious. I started hearing arguments every night while my dog was beside me, but once I was able to slightly squeeze my eyelids, which my dog noticed, and he started barking rapidly and loudly. My father rushed in but didn't notice anything, but my dog stayed barking all night. At about midnight, my entitled mother came to my room while my dog is still barking and took him away. I never heard him again. After about a year, there was an argument about me. My entitled mother said, "How long are we going to keep this lifeless body around?" To which my dad responds, "Until she dies." But sadly, the argument ended with my mum winning, and my dad had to move me into a smaller room in the house, because I was taking too much space in my entitled mother's eyes. Now I was moved into a very small room, barely enough to fit my bed, equipment, and room for one person to get in, and it was right next to the living room. So now I can easily hear the chats and fights, and it was starting to hurt my ears. Fast forward another year, and my entitled mother had friends over, and she was bragging about meeting this wealthy businessman at the bar, and how she will leave my dad and whatnot. I was livid, but I literally couldn't do anything. So 2 days later, she left my dad, saying he was a lazy husband and never satisfied her in anything. And she left. My father was heartbroken, so was I. My father is the most hard-working person that I know. A few months later of peace and quiet, my father decided to take me to a nursing home, and he cried over me, saying he can't see me like this and that it breaks his heart. So there I was for the next 4 years in a nursing home, with only a person coming to my room twice a day for blood circulation. I entertained myself by creating my own life in my mind, which, by the way, turned out to be healing the damaged brain cells, to the point that I can't differentiate between make-believe and reality. But I knew what my entitled mother did was totally real. One day I heard a familiar voice. It was my dad. He came to me and started talking to me again. I was beyond happy. He said, "I can't believe you are finally 19 today. I missed you so much. I couldn't let you see me in this terrible heartbroken state." At that point, I knew I couldn't stay like this any longer. I was hurting my dad, so I tried as hard as I can, and I actually opened my eyes. When my father noticed, he freaked out and called a doctor. They performed some tests and said that my brain cells have healed, but it will be a while before I walk and talk again. The news heard about my story and did a few interviews with me. And who did see me 5 days later? My entitled mother. She came back because of the fame. My father tried to kick her out, but she said I should decide. I, of course, said a big fat no in sign language. She didn't know I heard everything, lol. But I wasn't done there. I told the news about how terrible my entitled mother was, and she got a lot of hate in both real life and in social media. I also found out she left her wealthy businessman for the fame, and now she is all alone. No house, no money, and no work experience. Sweet, sweet karma. Now back to the third person view. My friend has been healing great. He can talk now and is learning to walk again. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that post. Now on to our next one by Iriseka. Titled, Entitled Dad Gets Arrested, Sued, and Shows the Judge His True Colors in Court. So I've had this story in my back pocket for a long time. I was never sure if I should share it, because it's such a typical entitled parent sounding story, and I often see people being accused of making things up. However, I've been bored, so I decided what the heck, I'll share. This is a two-parter. The first part took place in a parking lot, and the finale in a courtroom. I'm on mobile and I'm going to use a couple of nicknames, so please bear with me. The general cast of characters are Kim, my nice neighbor, Dick, the jerk entitled dad, and me, the fabulous Iriseka. So, Kim and I used to carpool our daughters to a large indoor athletic center. This place had everything: a soccer, quote-unquote, field, a skating rink, a gym, a basketball court, all indoors, so the kids could practice their sports year-round. Our daughters used to go there for gymnastics/cheerleading lessons at the same time. Occasionally, we would actually ride together to watch them practice. This was one of those days. So there were plenty of typical soccer mums and hockey dads that'd go to this place, but most were bearable, except for Dick. He was, well, a giant. Dick, I guess. Thus the nickname. He always complained that he deserved premium parking, that the coach didn't give his kid enough playtime, etc. He was verbally abusive towards his child. Also, we could hear him screaming during the kids' hockey practice all the way from the other side of the building. He belittled that sweet little guy, would shove other parents out of the way as he was walking. He believed he was the king of the arena. He was, and still is, by far the most horrible person I have ever encountered. So on this day, Kim and I went to watch the girls practice together. Dick was in a particularly bad mood. He was telling off the front desk woman when we walked in. I still don't know why. He was smacking his sweet, innocent little boy in the back of the head because he wasn't walking fast enough to the rink. It was awful. Coincidentally, I mentioned to Kim that maybe it was time to call CPS on him that very day. So now we are leaving, and so is he. He's still swearing at and belittling his kid. We get the girls in the car first, and we pull to the main road, a two-way highway. By the way, Kim's driving. We need to take a left, so she had to stop and wait for an opening. He whips out of his spot, never slowing, and just as she brakes, he slams into the back of her car. The cars were damaged, but everyone was fine. Kim, Dick, and I all get out. He immediately runs to her, screaming that she was a stupid frickin' beehole, dumb whore, the whole 9 yards, you know? Even though we knew that she did nothing wrong. We don't dare argue back. Kim just says, "Give me your insurance information." And that set him off. Bam! He punches her right in the nose, screaming "stupid CUNT," and shattering it. The kids all jump out and begin screaming and crying. I'm trying to calm and wrangle them, and at the same time, fumble for my phone to call 911. Long story long, he was arrested. There was a criminal case where he was found guilty, put on probation, and had to pay her reparations. But she sued civilly too, to make up the extra costs. Lost work, pain and suffering, future medical, etc. So fast forward to the civil trial. I was there as a witness. The judge was trying to ask us questions, but he kept interrupting, being just as obnoxious and rude as always. Finally, the judge asks him straight out, "Did you punch Kim blank in the face?" His response was shocking. Classic, and also ended the trial immediately. Yeah, I punched her. Look at that bitch, I gave her free plastic surgery. I improved her ugly face. I did her a favor. Oh my god. So, yeah, she received what she was asking for, plus some bonus cash dollars. Last I heard, his long-suffering wife divorced him, and got a restraining order. She, the mum, brings the sweet kiddo to the hockey now. She doesn't say much, but she seems fine. I don't know if he had visitation, but if he does, I pray it's supervised. And our next post is by user Vatican Cameos 714, titled, "Entitled Mum Says My 7-year-old Isn't Allowed to Mourn Her Grandfather Anymore. Ruins 7th Birthday." So my dad died on the winter solstice 2016. We're pagan and we celebrate Yule instead of Christmas. It was a very sudden heart attack in his sleep, though I'm not convinced he didn't purposefully overdose and cause it himself. My oldest was 6 at the time and my dad was her best friend. It hit us all very hard, and I was struggling to help my daughter through her first real loss while mourning myself. My mum decided to self-medicate with crack and whiskey, ironically what my father used to overdose. She kept making promises to my daughter about spending time together. Being 6, she was suddenly terrified she would lose my mum too, and then my mum bailed last minute, always to go to a party or to hang out at the bar. She said this was her grieving. I said it was her spiraling, but she refused to seek help. Mental stability was not a top priority in that household, ever. Here's where the entitlement comes into play. Less than 2 months after his death, my mum starts dating a new man. By February, she told my 6-year-old that grandma had a new man friend. She didn't tell me. I got to hear about it though through my 6-year-old's tears. She felt like grandma was replacing Pop Pop. And even if that isn't the case, the relationship was new and the kid was still grieving. She didn't need to know about grandma's new relationship yet. But my mum disagreed. She said she has the right to tell her granddaughter whatever she wanted. We got into heated argument after argument about boundaries and my daughter's right to mourn. My mother said, "You need to support me on this," and I informed her, like she did when I came out of the closet, that no, I don't have to support you, but I do have to accept you. She accused me of demanding she break up with her boyfriend because a child threw a tantrum. I told her she was welcome to live her life, but she didn't need to involve my daughter in every aspect of it. So a few months went by of my mother constantly trying to force her new boyfriend into my daughter's life. She would ask to take my daughter somewhere to spend time together. I would ask if her boyfriend would be joining them. I had to turn her down several times after asking my daughter if she was comfortable enough to get to know him. She was not. Each time my mother would scream at me about ruining her life and impeding on her grief. She was in mourning. How could I treat her this way? So my daughter's 7th birthday rolls around, and we get ready for a family party held in our backyard. I specifically told my mum that she was invited, but her boyfriend was not. This was a 7-year-old's party. Birthday girl made the guest list, and it is no place for drama. Well, can you guess what she does? Not only does my mother bring her new boyfriend, oh no, turns out the poor guy had just had a stroke or something, and he needed assistance walking. He temporarily needed a walker, and the party was through the grass to the backyard. My mother left her date to fend for himself at the side of the road and strode into the party with a look of absolute triumph that it didn't make sense at first. Then I saw him come around the corner, a man I didn't recognize and could only be one person. On either side of him were my in-laws, holding his arms to help him across the grass. They didn't know him either, but they saw him struggling in the front yard and decided to help him make it to the backyard. The moment my daughter saw him, she started to sob. Seeing just my mum without my dad was hard on her enough at the moment. Seeing another man in the place where Pop Pop is supposed to be broke her. She ran inside to her room, and before I could get someone to cover the grill for me, my mum chased after me. I found them in her room, my daughter trying to pull away from my mum, and my mum hugging her tight and muttering in her ear. Something inside me just snapped. I knew that position well. She was being told that she is a selfish child for having emotions. I jerked my mum away from my child, and pulled her into the other room where the yelling began. Mum says, "She needs to learn to get over this. She's 7, mother. This is hard for her. You're being so mean to me. I just lost my husband. And she just lost her grandfather. We're all hurting, Mum. I told you he wasn't welcome. She wasn't ready to see him. Well, he's already here, so there's nothing she can do but get over it. You need to leave. You can't kick me out. This is my house. Now leave." She didn't go quietly. Everyone at that party knew she was thrown out by my own daughter. I'm just here to celebrate with my grandchild. When she was finally gone, I hugged my still sobbing 7-year-old and asked her what Grandma had said exactly. She said I can't be sad anymore because he was just my grandma, but he was her husband, so I can't be sadder than Grandma. My stomach churned, and I suddenly feel very sorry that I didn't pop my mother across the face before she left. Edits, we did go no contact for nearly a year, and despite my mother throwing tantrums herself, we waited until my daughter felt ready to let Grandma back in. She was able to mourn and heal in peace. Thank you to everyone who expressed concern. Second edit, yes, she was high and drunk a lot of the time. This didn't faze me much because my parents have always used drugs and have/had an impressively high tolerance. I grew up thinking this was normal. I absolutely understand now it is not, of course. The new guy is deeply religious. He has the occasional beer and smokes a little bud, but he got my mum off the crack and other hard stuff. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with people? And our next post by user Vukling, entitled "Mum thinks I should lend her kid my laptop." Hey, never thought of posting this, but left it as a comment on another post, and OP there thinks it deserves its own thread. So here goes. Characters, me, entitled mother, entitled child. Last Christmas, I'm on the plane home to visit family. It's a 3-hour flight, and after a while, I take my laptop out. I'm sitting in the window seat, and next to me, in the middle, is a fat, annoying little entitled child. I'm guessing somewhere around 10 or so, and next to him, his entitled mother. So I start playing a video game, Evil Bank Manager if you're interested, and after a few minutes, I see the entitled child is looking at me in my laptop. Entitled child and entitled mother talk among themselves in a language I didn't recognize. In any case, a few minutes later, entitled mother pops the question. "Excuse me, sir. My son thinks your game is very fun. Would you mind lending him your computer so he can play and pass the time?" Well, I don't know. She wasn't rude, and I guess it's not an unreasonable thing to ask, but here's my logic. I owe you and your child nothing. He is your child, not mine. We don't even know each other, and we just happen to be sitting in the same row by the sheer vicissitudes of fate. Also, I charged my laptop and prepped for this because hey, I wanted to have something to do to pass the time. So I tell her exactly that. I'm sorry, but no. I planned on playing some games to pass the time myself. She pulls a face and goes, "Oh, come on, he's just a kid. You're old enough to not play games anyway. I'm 30, mate. How can you say no to a kid?" Really, bitch? I'm still a solid no, and now I'm getting pissed off. Mind your own damn business. So I basically just tell her it's a strong no, and I'm sorry. She huffs and says fine, and then goes back to speaking with entitled child in their language. The kid just sat there afterwards, huffing and puffing and staring daggers at me. I just don't get these people. I mean, it's okay to ask, and I'm getting there are some kind strangers out there who will do you a solid and all, but if I said no, then be respectful enough and don't push it further. The world doesn't revolve around you and your kid, and not only are you rude and disrespectful, in my opinion you're a horrible parent, because you're basically telling your child they are entitled to whatever they want, even if it belongs to someone else, that they come first. So this kid is quite likely going to grow up into an asshole. Alright, and our next post by user Miguel Tornado, titled, "Entitled mother tries to get me fired after I won't give her kid an award he didn't earn." For background, I used to work at a summer camp as a counselor and as the director of the archery range. One of the things campers had the opportunity to do was sign up for merit badges, including one for the archery program. The requirements were to pass a short written exam and to show that their shooting skill had improved. Because it was summer, and because some kids struggled with tests, I would offer to provide any assistance they might want. I was willing to do anything short of giving them the answers or doing the tests for them. The only caveat to this is if they refused my help, then I would leave them to their own devices, because there were other kids who did want it. During one season, a 14-year-old boy who we'll call Colby signed up for the badge. By the end of the first archery period, I could tell he was going to have trouble with the exam. I made an offer to help him and he turned me down. Fast forward to the end of the week. The exam is administered and he bombs it. So he doesn't get the badge. After the closing ceremony, he comes up to me demanding to know why. I explained that he didn't pass half the requirements. After trying to argue with me about it, he stomps off. About 10 minutes later, he comes back with his mummy in tow. She asks me the same question and I give her the same answer. She then goes into a tirade about how her son is a golden child and deserves to have everything. As she's doing this, Colby is standing behind her wearing a smug look, while I'm trying to decide if I'm actually hearing this, and trying not to laugh in this woman's face. When she finishes, I tell her it's fine if she believes all this, but I'm still not going to give him the badge because it wouldn't be fair to the other kids. Seeing how their expressions changed was priceless. She tells me that she's going to talk to my boss about it. I tell her that if she feels that's necessary then fine, but I'm pretty sure they'll agree with me. A short while later, I see them both come speed walking out of my boss's office with anger written all over them. I go into the office, my boss spots me, smiles, and gives me the thumbs up. Alright, and our next post is titled, "Make me stay late and yell at me? No, I will not break policy." Me is me, the store manager, S is the staff member working, EM entitled mum, K entitled kid. So I was working as a store manager for a medium dress for less retail store. We carried mostly clothing and home goods. Due to being short on managers, I was closing the store that day and had to open the next day. 8:45 PM, announcement. The store will close in 15 minutes. Please make your way to the checkout. Customers started heading up to the front. 8:55, I noticed one lady with her daughter is still shopping with a basket overflowing with items. Announcement. The store will close in 5 minutes. Please make your way to the checkout. 9 PM. She is still shopping. Announcement. The store is now closed. Please make your way to the checkout. The lady started to walk toward the front, to check out, I assumed. I had to wait for her to check out before I could close out the registers and figure out the money for the day. So, while waiting, I went to the office to quickly send some emails. At around 9:10 PM, I walked up to the registers and began to close the registers. I finished up quickly in about 5 minutes. I quickly put the money back in the safe and walked out. Walking by the fitting room, I hear voices inside. There were only 2 other employees on the sales floor, and I could see them both straightening items. The fitting room attendant was sorting clothes to go back to the sales floor. "Is somebody in the fitting rooms?" I asked S. "Yeah, I think so. I told her that we're closing," she responded. "Hello, the store is now closed. We are getting ready to lock up soon. We open at 9 AM tomorrow." I hollered back into the fitting rooms. Soon after, a very entitled lady and her daughter came out with a lot of items, picked up her basket of stuff, and said she was ready to check out. "I'm sorry, but the store closed almost 20 minutes ago. We are open in the morning," I let her know. "No, my daughter and I need to buy all of this right now," entitled mother declared to me. "That is not possible. The registers are closed and we are about ready to go home and shut down the store," I politely told them. "That's bullshit. They always let me shop at this time. This is unacceptable," she yelled at me. "The store is closed. You can come in the morning to shop if you would like," I responded assertively. "Fine. Then I demand you hold back all of this for me until the morning. I will be back when the store opens to get it," she told me. Now, due to us being a discount type store, we do not hold items, as we do not regularly get the same items. It is a company policy. "I'm sorry, but due to corporate policy, we're unable to hold your items. We open at 9 tomorrow, and if you are here, then I am sure there will still be here. I reminded her. What? No, these are my items, she demanded. These are the store's items right now, but tomorrow morning they could be yours. I let her know. Now, I need you to please leave. My staff and I would like to go home. That's bloody stupid, and you're awful. These items will be waiting for me here tomorrow, and I demand to have your store manager waiting so I can tell him about how horrible and stupid you are. I will be here at 9, she told me. The store manager will be here in the morning, I told her, smiling politely. Entitled Mother stormed out, kid in hand, grumbling and griping the whole time. It was late, and we were all tired, so we all got our stuff ready, armed, and left the store. I get there before any staff normally to get the money ready for the day, along with my paperwork while it was quiet. I made sure to spend the extra time that morning to put the basket of items away on the shelves and racks, spread through the store. Petty, I know, but it felt amazing knowing she might come in. At about 11 AM, I was up near the front talking to the morning staff, and I saw Entitled Mother storm in, already looking mad. I watch her not even look at us and walk straight to the fitting room. Shortly, I get a call on my earpiece from the fitting room attendant that a customer is asking for me. I stroll back, a professional look in my face, calmly ready for the storm. I get back there, and Entitled Mother looks mad. She sees me and says, "No, I asked for the store manager, not some supervisor." "Ma'am, he is the store manager," S told Entitled Mother. She gasped in anger. "How dare you put my things back? I told you I was coming back for them," she said to me, her face now red. "And I let you know last night that we cannot hold items due to the policy. It has to do with the nature of our store," I informed her. "So where are my items now? They better all be here still. I told you I was coming back," she demanded. "The retail merchandise is on the sales floor. All unpurchased items get put back," I said. "I can assure you they were here when we opened, but I do not know about now." Entitled Mother huffed and started walking around, stomping and huffing. She ended up finding some of what she had from before, but made sure to make comments to the cashier about how she could not find all of her items and she would never be coming here again. If only, right? I did see her at other times, but she went out of her way to never talk to me or acknowledge me, which was fine. And our next post is by user Miss a Match, titled, "Entitled Mother Demands I Let Her Kid Pet My Dog." So I should preface this by saying my dog isn't a service dog or emotional support dog that isn't allowed to be pet. Nothing like that. She just doesn't enjoy being touched by people she doesn't know. She's also currently has some kind of eye infection, and even we, her family, have to be careful with touching her. So, I was taking her on a walk up the park, minding my own business. I was aware of a mum and her kid over by the football goal kicking a ball around, but didn't really pay them much attention. Just registered them as being other people in the park to avoid, because, you know, social distancing. We walked around the edge of the field, and as we came up the other side of the football area, I saw the kids start to approach. I just kept walking, but she wouldn't go away. So I put the dog on the lead, she's so good off it, and sped up. Here is where Entitled Mother comes into play. EM is the mother, EK is the kid, me is myself. Entitled Mother, seeing me not stopping to let her kid pet my dog, says, "Excuse me?" Me, begrudgingly stopping, picking up the dog, says, "Yes, can I help you?" Entitled Kid tugging on his mum's top, "Can I pet the doggy?" Entitled Mother to her kid, "Of course." To me, "I saw you not stopping to let Entitled Kid pet your dog. Why is that?" "Because she doesn't like people she doesn't know, and I don't want your kid touching her or coming near me, really. But that's not fair. She wants to pet him. My dog is a girl, but everyone seems to think she's a boy." "Right, but people aren't supposed to go near each other. What if I have symptoms? What if she does? Do you really want to be responsible for spreading it?" This clearly was the wrong thing to say. "What? My kid isn't sick. She doesn't have the virus. How dare you? Now let her pet your dog." They start coming closer. Me, stepping away, says, "No. Teach your kid boundaries. She has a contagious eye infection." "That's stupid. People can't get dog infections." They keep coming closer, and she turns to her kid. "Go pet the dog, sweetie." Me, walking away now, ignoring them. Entitled Mother and Entitled Kid literally following me home. They stopped after I turned a corner and they lost me. But Jesus, teach a damn kid no just means no. One day she's gonna let that kid pet a dog that won't want it, and the dog's gonna snap or something. Alright, and our last post is by The Lizard Wizard, titled Girlfriend Has an Entitled Mum. So my girlfriend of 5 years, Haley, has a really entitled mother. It was so bad that she moved out to live with her father in another state. Her mother constantly harasses her to go to babysit her almost 10-year-old brother so that she can do as she pleases without the responsibility of a parent. With all that coronavirus crap, my girlfriend has been staying home and keeping her safe. Her brother keeps spamming her to go out of state just to babysit during a massive pandemic. When Haley refuses, her mother uses the guilt trip that her brother misses her. Mind you, her mother kicked her out at 17 and told her she wasn't allowed to set foot in her house after the law got involved of her perfect parenting. My genius of a girlfriend got the bright idea to get her mother to leave her the frick alone. Every time she gets harassed, she spams stupid worms in a string memes, and it works. All Haley has to do is threaten her mother with the worms, and her mother stops out of fear of her phone freezing. The screenshots are amazing. My girlfriend be smart using worms to shoo away her entitled mum. Glad that I'm getting married to her in October. I love her goofy ass so much. Entitled mother tries to get me to give my Easter basket to her kids. I live in an apartment complex with my boyfriend, I work overnights, so I'm usually asleep during most of the day. Yesterday, my boyfriend went out and bought me stuff to make up an Easter basket for me. Something we did for each other last year, but hadn't really talked about doing this year because of the pandemic. He set the basket up and left it with the passenger seat out of my car for me to find when I went to work. This morning, I got home around 7:30, and as I was walking through the parking lots, a couple of the neighbors' kids were playing outside. I'm pretty sure they're brothers, as I always see them together, and I passed them to go upstairs while carrying my basket. The basket itself is a pink wicker basket. It had a small pink stuffed bunny, a giant lollipop set, a chocolate bunny, and plenty of colored eggs in it. I had just taken a melatonin and put my sleep mask on to try to go to bed, when I hear a knock at my door. My boyfriend is fast asleep, so I figured I might as well look through the peephole to see if it was an Amazon delivery or something. I peek through and see my neighbors from over the stairs, so I open it up. The two boys from earlier were by her door watching our conversation. Entitled mother says, "My boys said you had an Easter basket?" Yeah. Okay, so give it to them. I'm sorry? Give them the Easter basket. You're an adult, why do you even have one? I'm not gonna give your boys my Easter basket. Well, why not? Do you hate Jesus or something? I stood there for a second with a confused look on my face before she snapped. Give them the basket already. I say, look, I've lived here almost a year. I see your kids all the time and I've never really interacted with them, but they seem like fine kids. Even if that is true though, I don't have to give them anything, especially not something that was given to me as a gift. If they want Easter baskets and you want them to have Easter baskets, why don't you buy the supplies and make them up yourself? Why should I have to do that when there's one already made up here? Champ, because it isn't yours? Well, I'm sure it'll get much better use if my boys have it rather than you. Hand it over, or I'm going to call the police and tell them some girl from apartment number stole their basket. You might think that it'll get more use from your boys than it will from me, but it's all sweets that I'm going to eat to keep me awake during my 12-hour shift tonight. The one that I'm going to sleep for if you would leave me be. Also, I even still have the basket I got from him last year, and I'll let you in on a secret. It holds all my sex toys. Happy Easter. After that, I closed the door in her face. I could hear her through the door give off one of those partial groan, partial screams, and she actually called the police on speaker right outside my door. So I called the non-emergency line and said if a woman called about someone from address stealing her kids' Easter baskets, that she was delusional, and told them what happened. Police still haven't shown up now, and it's time for me to snooze. Happy Easter all. ETA, hey all, I pretty much passed out after posting this and replying to one comment, but let me add a few things. I know my boyfriend shouldn't have gone to get Easter baskets during the pandemic. I've told him multiple times not to leave except for work and groceries. Both of us are essential employees. But no matter how many times I get onto him, he keeps going to the store for non-essentials. I have gotten onto him multiple times and he just doesn't listen to me. I did thank him for the basket and the thought behind it, but then got onto him for going out for it. Many of you are saying this isn't real, mostly because of the sex toys comment. After she said the "Do you hate Jesus" comment, my brain was running through all the things that I could say to get her to leave and let me be, and my sex toys being in the basket from last year actually popped into my head. But I didn't feel like it would really say, "Oh yeah, I hate Jesus." So once she said that her boys would use it more than me, I was like, "Oh, thanks, brain," and I said it. It's possible the police did show up after I fell asleep, but if so, I have no recollection of it. Melatonin knocks me out, and it's hard to wake me up even without it. So if anyone would have answered the door, it would have been my boyfriend, who also used to be a police officer. Though I don't think they did show up, because we got a notice saying that during the pandemic the police would not be showing up on calls for things like petty theft. And it even had assault on the list, which blew my mind. To those of you saying I should have slammed the door in her face right after she asked, you're right. I wish I had, so I wouldn't have had to deal with such stupidity when I was so tired already. To those of you saying I shouldn't have opened the door regardless because of the pandemic, you are also right. The only reason I opened the door was because I recognized her as my neighbor, and I know she's a single mother with 3 kids in her home, and to my knowledge she isn't working at the moment. So I thought she was just coming to ask for something like milk or a couple of eggs or something, which I probably would have given her if that were the case. To those of you saying to report her to my apartment management, my boyfriend has been living in this complex for over 5 years, and is very close with management. So if anyone would report anything he or I did, management would call him and ask, "Hey, what happened with so-and-so?" But we've reported our upstairs neighbor for things, and nothing has been done about it. Those of you saying it's just to report it for a paper trail, I've lived in the apartment almost a year, and haven't had an issue with family until today. So I don't think much more will happen with her, or at least I hope not. Her boys are in middle school, which starts at around 7 or something in the morning here, so they're used to being awake as early as 7:30. It's possible they haven't stopped their school alarms, and are still waking up early in the morning, and before the pandemic, I'd seen them playing in the parking lot as I got home from work multiple mornings. Nobody usually bothers them when they play, and when they see a car coming through the lot, they grab whatever they're playing with and move to the side for the car to get through. The boys seem to be very respectful, as every time I've been outside to clean out my car, or just walk through the lot to get my mail, they step aside and stop playing so they don't hit anyone with their ball. Usually a football or basketball, some occasions a soccer ball. Now I'm at work, so I probably won't be interacting with this post much more tonight. I hope you all enjoy your Easter, to those who celebrate. And to those who don't, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you still doubt this story, go ahead. I don't care. Just remember that you weren't there. Alrighty-o, and our next post is by WTFDNDDM, titled, "Entitled Mother Demands My Pokemon Cards That I Stole From Her Brat." So I have a binder that has the first 2 Pokedex Pokemon in order, and with a lot of rare cards in the back. Plus a lot of different Mewtwo cards, as he's my favorite. My collection is my pride and joy. I would die protecting it. That's a joke. There's a pretty chill comic book and card store by my house, and when I go I bring my binder with me so I can see what cards I have so I don't get duplicates, and because the owner likes to see what new ones I have. One day, as I'm at the counter showing them to the guy in charge, chatting about what I want to buy, a kid about 10 comes over and watches intently, staring at the binder. He asked if I would trade a pretty rare card I was putting into it, and I tell him, "Nah, I'm good." He whines and asked again, and I tell him, "Nah." Guy looks pretty annoyed at the whining kid, but the kid soon leaves, only to come back with a woman who is glaring and demanding I return the cards I stole from her child. I ask her what she's talking about, and she demands to see my binder. I ask her if she's kidding, and she snapped that I need those cards. "You stole from entitled kid, and I'm tired of people like you stealing from children." I wanted to facepalm, and thankfully the guy in charge tells her to beat it. Well, she tried to grab the binder, and I quickly gave it to the guy behind the counter, and told her that if she needs the cards so much, how about she buys some like the rest of us peasants? No idea what went through her head, but she threatened to call the police as she left, and I simply waited around and bought more cards. Kinda disappointed that no coppers came. Sad face. Alright, and our next posted by Leos1023. This is an update number 2 to be roommates with my son and give him your games and food. Hey people of Reddit, my cousins gave me a second update about a couple days ago, about entitled mother and kid that has been harassing them this semester. Now they told me that this happened 3 days after the New York trip, so this was before quarantine. So, my cousins told me that they do first year student elections during January to February. Entitled kid threw a tantrum when he lost the election for class president, and his entitled mum howled at my cousin. Time to meet everybody. OC older cousin, LC little cousin, RM roommate, EM entitled mum, EK entitled kid, EKRM entitled kid's roommate, Vice, student body vice president, NK nice kid, EKND entitled kid's nice dad, D is the dean. So, the setting. My cousin and his roommate were having a council meeting discussing the first year elections. Now, I was told that the meeting are for the student council members and prospects only. Because Nice Kid was going to be a candidate for the president, so he was allowed in, his dad is a janitor, and he works as a campus job, so he doesn't live on campus. The door opens, cue entitled kid. Hi everyone! My cousin didn't want to deal with his BS and told him to leave. He asked why he couldn't stay, and he stated that the meeting was for student officers and prospects only. Then entitled kid asked, "What's a prospect?" A prospect is someone who plans to run for office. They are then included in the meeting because they are an associate member. Then entitled kid asked why Nice Kid was allowed in. Then older cousin stated, "Nice Kid is a prospect. That's why." Entitled kid then said, "I'm gonna be a prospect." Now, my cousin knew that if you're on disciplinary probation like he was, it's impossible for someone to get an appeal. The last time an appeal was successful was 1996, and the last time someone tried was 2009. With that in mind, older cousin laughed in his head and wished him luck, knowing that it would never get approved. Then his mum called the student council office to try to get the information about an appeal. Now my cousin said the peer council is in charge of appeals. It is comprised of 12 student officers, 3 10th years, 3 11th years, and 3 12th years. The student body vice president's vote counts twice. Now his mum was there in the parking lot during the day of the vote. The vote was 6 out of 5, so entitled kid's appeal was approved. Older cousin had this "why" look on his face, and he saw entitled mum was in the parking lot, and her boy came through and hugged her. She then said, "I told you that mummy would take care of it." She then saw older cousin walked up to him and said, "My son got his appeal approved. You have to share that room and be his friend." Entitled kid's like, "Yeah." Older cousin sat there blank for a moment as he realized that he now has to spend time with entitled kid because he is a prospect. Then entitled mum says, "Excuse me, didn't you hear what I said? You're going to spend time with my son now." Older cousin then leans towards the mum and told the mum in an eerie way, "Let it begin." But, in truth, older cousin was scared crapless. He realized that if Nice Kid lost, he would be stuck with entitled kid for the rest of the year. The election was on February 25th, so he had 4 days to get a game plan. He asked Nice Kid and the rest of the gang to meet at the room to figure out what to do. It went like this. "Okay guys, we need to figure something out. If entitled kid wins, we're gonna be stuck with him for the rest of the year. I have a good feeling I can win. That's not the point. Yeah, I can imagine that his mum is going to bribe other students to try to get them to vote for her son. We don't have a lot of money, that's the point. So we have very limited cash resources to make you look good. Oh, I see." Then entitled kid's roommate calls his dad and told him what was going on. He stated that his roommate could be class president if he doesn't help them. Entitled kid's roommate's dad agreed to help. So getting Nice Kid exposure was the only thing that was left. The gang worked tirelessly to promote Nice Kid's campaign, even had a town hall with free pizza. Older cousin said that entitled kid really wasn't campaigning. Older cousin was thinking that maybe he just thought that he was going to win, so he didn't put in any effort. The eve of the election, older cousin had a meeting with the prospects in his room and told them that their parents had been called and that there will be an announcement when the results are in. Older cousin then proceeded to talk to Nice Kid and entitled kid about student government. Nice Kid was being cool, but Entitled Kid was demanding to eat sweets and play games. It went like this. Come on, let me have a honey bun and turn the PS4 on. That's not what this meeting is about. It's to prepare you for what is going to happen tomorrow. OMG, turn it on now. He said no. F you, mother. I'm gonna be your roommate when I become president. You're gonna have to share eventually, so stop holding out. Everybody just sighs loudly to where it's obvious. Then Entitled Kid says, what? It was time to end things, so older cousin dismissed Entitled Kid and Nice Kid. Nice Kid left at that time. Entitled Kid's roommate was coming to sleep over. Entitled Kid's roommate's like, hey, cameo still on for tonight, right, little cousin? Yeah, I'll put out the couch. Then Entitled Kid asks, can I sleep over too? No. Entitled Kid pouts. He's like, why not? Because you don't live here and aren't our guest. Well, I'm gonna stay anyway. Entitled Kid then proceeds to sit on the couch. The gang ask him to move, but he doesn't. The gang isn't having it, especially Little Cousin. Little Cousin stands over him and Entitled Kid says, bruh, what the F you want? Keep in mind, my cousins are black, he's white. We can either do this the easy way, or we can do it my way. Shut up, you ain't gonna do nothing. The gang then drags him out and he banged on the door for an hour, begging to be let back in. Fast forward to tomorrow. The parents, students, and faculty are all there. Vice was getting ready to read the results. The Vice says, everybody, thank you for coming. This is a time where we greet the new class officers, our first year students. Everyone please be quiet, we will be starting at this time. Vice then proceeds to say the candidate and how many votes they received. For Entitled Kid, 85 votes. Because student elections aren't that important to first years, 85 was a lot of votes. Then parents started to chat. Entitled Mum and son were looking smug, looking like they had won. Older cousin admitted to having this oh crap look. Then Vice banged his gavel and said, order! Vice says, for Nice Kid, 764 votes. Nice Kid wins. Little Cousin and Entitled Kid's roommates turned to Entitled Mum and son and pointed in their face and said, booyah! Nice Kid's parents were there and congratulated him, and so did the rest of the gang. Entitled Mum and son were pissed, but my cousin said that Entitled Kid's dad was just there, and he was really polite. Entitled Mum and son pulled her husband away from the crowd, and she demands he do something. Entitled Mum says, you pay this school a lot of tuition. Our boy has to be president. Well, over 700 people decided that they didn't want Entitled Kid to be president. I can't do anything. Entitled Kid having a tantrum. I'm supposed to be president. Now look what you did. You made him cry. Come on, Mummy will buy you an ice cream. She then turned to older cousin. You jerk. You plotted against my son, didn't you? Well, I didn't help him. You owe my son. You didn't take him on the trip with you, and you've been bullying him all semester. If you don't want to be his friend, you're gonna get an earful from my husband. Yeah, you effing jerk. Language. The Entitled Kid then flips the bird to older cousin and leaves with his mum. Older cousin then had to talk with the dad and found out that he sent him to the school hoping that it would break his son's entitlement. Older cousin tells the dad what has been going on the semester. Everything. The dad looked shocked. He begins to apologize profusely for his wife and son's behavior. He stated that he thought he was improving and making friends. Older cousin had to dispel that and said that Entitled Kid is being a grade A jerk and was being very rude and disruptive to the gang. He gave older cousin his number and said if Entitled Kid bothers them, just call him and put him on speaker. Nice Kid ended up choosing Entitled Kid's roommate as his vice president. As the days went by, needless to say, Entitled Kid became even worse than when Entitled Kid's roommate was in student government. He said, "You stole the election from me. You have to pay for this." Entitled Kid kept getting worse. Entitled Kid's roommate made a desperate plea and begged the dean to switch his roommate, and the dean said, "I'm really sorry, but I have to, there is nothing left. I've asked other kids if they'll switch and nobody wants to. Can you do something?" "Well, there is one thing." "What is it?" "Well, theoretically, student officers are allowed to live together." "I'm not following you. If you can convince the guys to let you move in with them, I'll allow it." Entitled Kid's roommate later asked the guys if he could move in. My cousins and roommate said he is more than welcome to live in the room with them, so they proceeded to go and get his things, and it went down like this. Okay, just put all your things in the bed and we'll get it. Alrighty. Entitled Kid then says, what are you doing? I'm moving in with the guys. What? Yeah. Cool, then I'm coming too. The gang gives a very sarcastic, oh yeah, sure you can, and proceed to move Entitled Kid's roommates in. The roommate says in a really smug and sarcastic way, oh wait, you can't move in with us, remember? You lost. Entitled Kid throws a tantrum in the hallway, and everyone sees. The gang gets the rest of his roommate's things and finished moving him in. Entitled Kid's roommate has had the best sleep in weeks. Entitled Kid does still wait by my cousin's door and begs for his roommate to move back in and gives a half-assed apology. The gang promptly ignores him and says, this pizza's so good, man, it's all ours. Wow, look at these graphics, this is such a cool game. Entitled Kid begs to be let in, and the gang never does. They have woken up to him sleeping at the front of their door prior to the quarantine on more than one occasion. I know I was long, so thanks for reading. My cousins have said that he hasn't been around much due to the quarantine, due to mandates by the dean, so it's unlikely that I'll have another story to post, but if so, I'll keep you in the loop. What a truly epic story. And our next post is by user The Death A of Us, titled, Entitled Mum tries to steal my sweets for her entitled kid, then tried to claim I wanted to poison him. Hello all, hope you are doing well during these unknown and uncertain times. I hope you are all finding the best out of the current situation. So here's my story of what happened to me a few months ago. This was before everything sparked up and went into pandemonium. I love wrestling, and whenever there is a wrestling event on, I'll try to buy something for the night, like sweets, because the wrestling events are on really late in the place where I live, which is England. So, I walked down to my local Wilko on a Monday, a British shop which sells all types of things ranging from calculators to wallpapers. But most importantly for me, sweets. My favourite type of sweets are called pick and mix. You get a cup and fill it with different types of sweets in different pots. You can pick which sweets you want basically. Quite cool, and I'm sure most British people in the subreddit will know what I'm talking about. So I picked up my cup and left the store and waited at the traffic lights to walk home. It's not a long distance, so walking is best for me. But as I'm at the lights, waiting for them to turn for me to walk, I see an entitled mother and her son next to me, and this is what I hear. Mummy, could I have some sweeties? He says this while looking at my cup. Okay, sweetie, Mummy will just talk to the boy real quick. She then turned to me. Could my child have one of your sweets? No, your child should never take candy from a stranger, no matter what. What if he has allergies to the sweet? I'm sure he won't, so just hand it over. Why should I? I spent my money on this and I don't want to be liable for your child if he has a reaction to it. For all you know, I could have poisoned them. By this point, the lights have already passed and gone back to red. I should have left, looking back on it now while the light was green. The entitled mother then proceeded to try to take the cup out of my hands. I prevented her and pulled back, making the entitled mother stumble backwards and almost fall to the floor. I am not small by any means, but not big either, so I was actually quite shocked about it. She then tried for a second time, and yet again I prevented her. But this time she actually fell to the floor while her son looked on in disbelief. What happened next was kind of a blur, but I will try to recount it in the best way possible. What I heard next was the entitled mother scream. This pervert is trying to take advantage of my child and poison him. Somebody call the police. I looked at her shocked, and her child started screaming alongside her. By this point, there was quite a scene being made, and people almost felt like they closed in on me. This is where it becomes a blur. I think it was a man who asked me, "Sir, is this true?" No, obviously not. She tried to steal my sweets for her child. He's lying. He said he might have poisoned the sweets and that he wanted to take advantage of him. I then saw the man pull out his phone and call 999. But just then, everything became clear. There was a man in a bandana who I will call My Guy for this story. My Guy says, "Ma'am, I was on the other side of the street and saw the whole thing. The kid was just using self-defense because you tried to rob him of his sweets. He didn't want to do anything to you or your child." Entitled mother then turned to the guy on the phone. "That's not true. Tell the police my side of the story." Guy on the phone to the police. "Hello, I want to report an incident down in my town name." The entitled mother gives me a crap-eating grin and I was horrified. But just then, Guy, still on the phone, Yes, this mother just tried to rob this child of some sweets that he bought. Entitled mother went white. She ran away with her child, who through all of this was still throwing a tantrum. The guy on the phone then turned back to me with a huge grin on his face. He then showed me his phone. It was never on, and it turns out he never actually called the police, and just pretended to. This made the mother run away and leave me be. God damn, that guy was a good actor. I thanked both of them, my guy especially, and then I walked home with a sense of victory. And let me tell you, those pick and mix sweets tasted 10 times sweeter that day. Alright, and our next post is by user Nithes124. Entitled parents tried to get me arrested at Walmart for being a bad employee. So I was at Walmart about 2 days ago because I was getting something for my dad. He's at high risk group for this coronavirus going around. But I had just gotten new Powerbeats as a present from my girlfriend because I had been looking at them for some time. I was heading down an aisle because I needed to get some deodorant. I don't want to smell like garbage during this whole lockdown thing. While I was walking down the aisle, I saw that some bottles of shampoo had been knocked over, and I decided to put them back, so that way the employees could do more important stuff. Cue entitled mother. I was listening to my music while I was putting stuff back, so I didn't hear her call, or let alone notice her, up until she decided to yank my earbud out, which hurt a lot. I'm like, ow, hey, what's your deal, woman? Maybe you shouldn't have your headphones on while you're working a job where you have to interact with people. Sorry, but I don't work here. But you're stacking shampoo bottles so that you must work here. No, I'm just trying to help out. Now, please leave me alone. I wasn't in a very good mood at the time, so I put my earbud back in my ear, and she proceeded to yank it out again. For being so ignorant, you have to help me with my groceries. I tell her no, use some colourful language that I don't want to repeat, and I walk away to grab the rest of the things that I needed. While I'm at the register scanning my items, I get a tap on the shoulder from a police officer. There's a police station just down the street from this Walmart, so they got there pretty quick. Young man, did you assault this woman? So I tell him the whole ordeal, and in true entitled mother fashion, says I was lying to get out of trouble. Her son, who looked about 16, showed up and told the cop to look at the cameras to see what happened. We all went and did just that. The officer apologized, her son told her that he was going to move and live with his dad, and the officer gave her a fine for making a non-urgent 911 call. So, no crazy ending I guess, but at least she was put in her place. Thank you for reading, hope you all have a wonderful Easter, and please make sure that you and your relatives stay safe during this pandemic. Alrighty-o, now we're on to our next post by Mitch Ra Group, titled, Aunt Demands That My Mum Pays for Her Family Portrait. So this happened quite a while ago at a party for something. Backstory, EA, entitled Aunt, is the younger sister of my dad, and just like the rest of my dad's side, an entitled piece of crap. She's the youngest out of 3 siblings, and has been spoiled since birth as the only girl. In this, she was pregnant with her second child. This will be relevant later. I was 8 at the time, so while I was there for part of the story, most of this is a retelling of what my dad told me. So, entitled auntie comes to our house along with her husband and entitled kid. Me and the other kids stayed in the living room watching TV and playing with toys. The parents, on the other hand, were chatting in the kitchen. Soon, everyone was called for dinner. The parents started bragging about how amazing their kids were, and my mum, wanting to fit in, told them about how well behaved we were during the family photo that we took. After dinner, the parents followed my mum to the fireplace where the picture was. Their conversation then moved to talking about their own family photos, until entitled auntie's screaming broke the silence. I want a family photo too. Dad's like, okay, where did you get this photo? My co-worker does photography on the side. I could ask him, give me his number. Okay. So EA, M, and D head to the kitchen. M gets her phone and tells EA the phone number of her co-worker. D's like, you forgot the price. Entitled auntie, the price is X amount. Price? For the photo? Why are you telling me? You're paying. Dad starts chuckling. Mum's like, what do you mean we're paying? You have to pay for the photo. Dad, through his laughter, is like, we're not paying for that crap. You have to. You can't put a family photo up and not pay for everyone else to have a picture. That's rude. Dad then laughs louder, causing everyone to come to the kitchen. Entitled Auntie starts screaming at my mum about how she wants a photo too. Entitled Auntie's husband tells her to stop. Entitled Auntie continues to yell. Dad finally stops laughing and wipes the tears from his eyes. Entitled Auntie, first, we're not paying for anything. Second, get the hell out of my house. Entitled Auntie then collects her kids and leaves. Though I'm not sure if this was true, my dad said on her way out that my brother told her, "Bye bye, rude fat lady." And I said, "She's not fat, just rude." The party was ruined after that, and everyone left after some dessert. Dad got a call from multiple members of the family, telling him to just pay for Entitled Auntie's family photo. Dad always replied with the same thing, "I'm not paying for her entitlement." He then laughed when they started yelling and hung up. My dad is marvelous. Karen is confused for getting the police called on her because she broke into my house after I went on holiday. Backstory. This happened in 2015 and still makes me wonder how dumb people are. I was on holiday with my mum and dad in Spain for a week. To make sure our house stayed well maintained, we would give 2 to 3 copies of our house key to our neighbors, and told them to make sure nothing is taken. One of them was Karen, who was the only person in her family who was entitled. Now to the story. So my family was back from our holiday, and by the time we get back, we were so tired, we left the luggage in the hall, and went straight to our rooms to sleep. It was about 3 hours later when we heard something like glass break in our living room. If you have read my other stories, then you would know I play airsoft, so I had a pistol with me. I took it, and I loaded it with BBs, airsoft bullets/pellets, and went downstairs with my dad, who was looking for his airsoft rifle, but it wasn't in its case, so he followed me down with me. I walked into the room and I see Karen trying to rip the TV off the wall. In the process, she knocked over a glass vase, which made a loud crack that went through the house. The conversation went like this. "What the F do you think you're doing? Borrowing your TV, what does it look like? You're trespassing. Get off my property now. You gave me a key, so I have a right to take all your stuff, as having a key means I own this house, so go away." At this point, Karen notices the gun and goes white. I take advantage and say go over to the kitchen. Next to my kitchen is a small bathroom, so as soon as she is near it, my dad pushes her in and locked the door. Afterwards, he called the police. About 20 minutes later, they arrived, and when Karen heard them, she started screaming through the bathroom door, saying that we kidnapped her and how we refused to let her go. I tell the police what happened and offered to show them the camera footage, as we have cameras all around the house. They took the footage and took Karen into custody until they looked over the footage. To sum this all up, Karen was stealing from us the whole week, with stuff like radios and phones. We pressed charges, and she's getting 18 months in jail for robberies and trespassing. Thank you for reading. Alright, and our next post is by user That's One Hardcore JX, titled, My Psycho Grandmother vs. My Parents. This story is quite long, so I'm going to start from when I was a baby up until now. I don't have official dates, but I will put up the year of when this story begins. Also, if you're really easily triggered, do not read the year 2004 as it contains a very serious topic. Please read 2004 at your own risk if you decide to read it. Spoiler alert guys, I'm going to read 2004. My mum and dad met when they were 14. They never really hit it off until they were about 23 to 25. Now, 1994. While they were dating, my grandmother was always saying things such as, "My daughter deserves the best and has no business with someone who is dirt poor." My dad wasn't poor, but wasn't very wealthy. He always had a job and has multiple degrees under his belt. When I was being conceived, he was working as a security guard and pulling in a decent amount of money to keep himself and my mother happy. My mother would work day shifts at a local grocery store, packing shelves, working the checkouts, etc. Jumping forward a few weeks later, my parents decided to tell my grandmother that they're having a baby, which is me. They had already told my dad's family and it was good vibes all around. But once they told my mother's mum, she wasn't very happy. When mum told her, she walked away, went outside for a cigarette, and didn't talk to mum or dad for about 15 minutes. According to dad, mum started bawling her eyes out and locked herself in the bathroom. My grandmother comes back inside and walks up to my father and says, "Here is what's going to happen. She's gonna get an abortion and you're going to disappear. My father was absolutely destroyed that she did not approve of the pregnancy. So, Dad left the house and went home without my mother. I do not know what happened when Dad left the house. I haven't heard what happened after that. 1995, I'm born. While my mother was in hospital, my grandmother came up to see me. According to both my parents, she kept calling me her baby. Dad kept his cool in the hospital as he didn't want to cause a scene, as there were other patients in the room that my mother was in. But my mother absolutely freaked out. She asked my grandmother to leave and was saying something along the lines of, "How dare you? You tried to force me to get an abortion, and now you want to say that he is your baby. No, screw you," etc. From what I gather, she ends up leaving. A few days later, it all blows over and my mother and grandmother are okay, quote unquote. 2004, ooh, spicy year, boys. My father is suffering from depression, anxiety, and had lost his job. He searched for about 2 months to find a job, but no one was returning his calls. He starts freaking out, as bills need to be paid and food needs to be put on the table. My father gets a call from my grandmother asking how he is going with getting a job. He tells her he has been for an interviews, but no one has called him back yet. My grandmother starts to belittle him on the phone, saying, "You're a worthless piece of crap. My daughter is going to be homeless because of you, and your son will be taken off of you." Dad hangs up the phone. A few weeks go by and still no one wants to hire him. My father starts falling into a deep depression. He starts spending the next days in bed just crying. I remember coming into the room trying to play with him, and he would just lay there staring into nothingness. A few days go by. I think I am upstairs playing my PlayStation or playing with something, as kids do. I hear my mother screaming. I run downstairs and my mother screams, "OP, help." I finally get to her and I see her trying to lift my father up around his ankles. I look up at my father and he had tried to kill himself by hanging. We cut him down and send him to the hospital, and they hold him for 72 hours. A few days go by, and Dad tells Mum that my grandmother had sent a letter to my dad telling him that this family would be a lot better if he just disappeared, etc, etc. My mother cut all contact with my grandmother after that, and Dad starts going to therapy. Just to clarify, my dad is still alive and well in 2020. After he started going to therapy, he became a lot more open with his feelings and started to improve mentally. 2015. It's Christmas and we have some family and friends over. We are all having a good time. Some family members are having a good laugh, while others are very drunk. Either way, it was good vibes all around. Around 5:30 PM, my mother's phone rings. It's my grandmother. My mother disappears into her room with the phone and doesn't come out for 2 hours. Me and Dad check on her every half hour to see if she's okay. When the phone call ends about 2 hours later, she comes out and pulls me aside and tells me what was talked about. Apparently, my grandmother has lied to my mother her entire life on who her real father is. Mom is bawling her eyes out and Dad grabs her and they both disappear into the bedroom for a little while. About 30 minutes later, they come out, sit everyone down at the party, and tell them what has happened. Everyone is disgusted in my grandmother, and most of them don't talk to her ever again after that little stunt. 1st of November 2019. It's my father's birthday. My mother bought my father tickets to see his very favorite band called Grinspoon. Both are very excited as they haven't seen them play in years. They get ready to go to the concert, and while at the concert, my mother complains that she has a headache. She takes a few painkillers and soldiers on. They watch 5 of these supporting acts, and the headache is getting immensely worse. Grinspoon comes on stage and starts rocking out. They finish their first song, and Mum says to Dad, "We need to go home. My head is killing me." Dad throws her in the car and they both drive home. The second they get home, Mum is sprinting to the front door, runs into the bathroom and vomits. Dad follows behind her and holds her hair and gets her a glass of water. Mum did have a few drinks at the concert, but she wasn't drunk or even tipsy. After she's had a good vomit, she goes and lays down on the couch with Dad. 10 minutes go by and Mum's eyes start rolling into the back of her head. We all start to freak out. Next minute later, she is having a seizure. Dad calls 000 and we rush her to the hospital. After a few tests, Dad rings me and says, "You need to come to the hospital now." I get to the hospital and Dad is waiting outside. He holds me and says, "Opie, you need to say goodbye to your mother. She has had a stroke and the doctors say that you need to say your goodbye now just in case she doesn't make it." I say my goodbyes to my mother and she heads to surgery. 6 hours later, we get a phone call. The surgery was a success and she is alive. Me and my father are over the moon. The doctors explained to us that she has lost a lot of her motor functions, but will regain the most of it with therapy. A few days later, I'm out at work and my dad is going to the hospital to visit my mum. My dad goes to walk into her room and guess who is there? My grandmother. Somehow, she caught wind of this. I don't know what was said between her and Dad while Mum was recovering, but I know he said to keep it under wraps, as we will tell everyone in the next few days. The next day, Dad goes to the hospital and my grandmother is there again. Only this time, she has brought people that we don't even know. Dad immediately leaves and calls me to ask who they are. I tell him I have no idea. I call my mother's sister, my auntie, and ask what the hell is going on. Apparently, they are just my grandmother's friends, and in my personal opinion, had no right to be there, as they didn't even know my mother at all. Now, I'm not a violent person at all, but while I was on the phone to my auntie, I said to her, "Do you really think my grandmother deserves to be in the same room as my mother? She has cut her out for years, and now only gives a crap when she almost dies. What about when she needed her support?" My auntie said nothing. I reply with, "You know, if I was the one that walked in and saw her, she would be very lucky to leave with a full head of hair." I hang up the phone. After that phone call, my auntie must have spoke to my grandmother and she never returned to the hospital. 2 days go by. I get a phone call from the one and only Witch of the West. I answer, not knowing who it is. "Hello, OP speaking." She replies, "Hey OP, it's your grandmother, remember me?" I reply with, "Yeah, sadly I do. What the hell do you want?" She starts going off her nut at me, calling me every name under the sun and saying that now my mother is immobile, that she is going to try and becomes her carer, and that she is going to make up a bunch of lies on how my dad is a drug addict. My dad has never touched an illegal substance in his life. While she's losing her crap, I press the record button on my phone and just let it capture everything. She hangs up and I immediately go to get a lawyer. I see the lawyer a few days later and we talk it over. Because I am my mother's son, I legally consign to become her carer. So I do, and I give my lawyer the audio recording of the phone call me and my grandmother had. I hand her the USB with a recording on it and she plugs it into her laptop. She listens to it and is in total shock. We set up a court date to take my grandmother to court. And our last one, 2 months ago, we finally go to court. My grandmother is facing 2 counts of harassment over a cellular device and 1 count of defamation of character. She is also not allowed to go near my mother or anyone else in my household until 2023. Overall, I'm satisfied with the verdict. Also, my mother is doing much better since the stroke and is slowly regaining all of her motor functions. I couldn't be more proud of her. And our next post is by user Sub to Dead Meat, titled "Extremely Religious Aunt Injures Me because she found out I was an atheist thanks to a video game." Hey guys, it's my first post on this subreddit, so please excuse the mistakes. Our cast are OP me, EA is entitled Aunt, CC is cool cousin, M is my mum. Okay, background. I come from both Muslim and Christian religious backgrounds, but I am an atheist. M and CC knew that, but EA didn't. It was a cool Saturday evening. Cool cousin and entitled aunt came over to visit us because we just came back from abroad. So while mum and entitled auntie were chatting, me and cool cousin were playing Assassin's Creed. And when we are almost done, entitled auntie barges into the room and begins watching us. She's like, "Bam! What is the game you are playing about?" "Ah, it's about killing and assassinating targets for the Apple of Eden during the Third Crusade, of course. But OP, you know that these actions are haram, forbidden in our religion." She believed that we were going to practice sorcery if we continued playing it. So I say, "It is in your religion." "What do you mean your religion? Aren't you a Muslim?" I stayed quiet, but cool cousin defended me and said, each one can believe in whatever they want, and OP here decided to be an atheist. How dare you believe in the devil? OP is like, actually, being an atheist means, shut your mouth, you filthy kafir. Mom, that's enough. You always do that with OP when he was Christian. Just let him be. No, I'm not going to let that little crap continue being lost. After all the yelling, my mum decided to intervene. Mum's like, enough, EA. Every time you meet up with us, you try to convert us to Islam. Would you like it if I did the same to cool cousin? Besides, your brother, my dad, became Christian, and you continue your attempts to manipulate him. OP is an atheist. So what? He's my son, and I will love him no matter what. That's it. I've had enough. If you're gonna let the devil worshipper live with you, I won't. Entitled Auntie grabs a wooden statue and hurled it at me. It hit me in the eye and I went to the hospital. Cops were called and Entitled Auntie tried to justify her actions by saying that it was okay because I was an atheist. Obviously that didn't work and she had to pay us $3,000 for medical bills. Entitled Auntie never tried that stunt again, and of course, me and cool cousin stayed close to each other. P.S. Sorry if some phrases are a little bit off. I had to translate the argument from Levantine Arabic to English. P.S. All caps lock sentences are Entitled Auntie yelling. TLDR, Insane Muslim Auntie tries to kill me because she found out I'm an atheist thanks to a historical game. Edit, thank you kind stranger for helping me fix the text format. It isn't a wall anymore. Edit, I have posted the ending to EA's problem. It was one roller coaster of emotions. Alright, now we have to check that one out. It's mandatory. Insane religious aunt berates my cousin over her boyfriend and soon-to-be husband, and is shocked when her son sided against her. Hey guys, since my last post had so much support, I decided to post more stories about my insane aunt. Backstory. My aunt is an ultra-religious Muslim and she has injured me in the past. Sorry if some sentences don't make sense, I had to do a rough translation from Levantine Arabic to English. Our cast are IC, the innocent cousin, OP, yours truly, CC, the cool cousin, PBF, poor boyfriend, EA, Entitled Auntie. It was a nice winter evening. Entitled Auntie had just come back from Dubai. I was spending the weekend with innocent cousin, and my entire family has greeted her with an open heart, but my wounds with her are still fresh. Innocent cousin was also Entitled Auntie's nephew, and cool cousin was her son, but innocent cousin saw her as a mother figure because her mother was always away at work. Later during the night, innocent cousin decided to introduce her boyfriend to Entitled Auntie, but problems began to develop when they started talking about marriage. Entitled Auntie's like, oh sweetie, you're such a lovely person, where are you getting married? Oh, we're getting married at a church. Excuse me? Please, Entitled Auntie, we all know what happened with you and OP. We don't want that to happen again. For some random, odd reason, and no one knows why, Entitled Auntie started yelling again. If you don't want that to happen again, don't marry this jerk in a church. Man, please, I really love her. If you really love her, you would leave her alone after I just warned you. Mom, that's enough. Yeah, we don't want to repeat what happened between me and you. If he wants to marry her in a church, so be it. I'm not gonna listen to the talk of a pagan worshipper. You already cost me my relationship with your mother, you little crap. You're not gonna do the same thing now. CC was getting mad and he started yelling. Enough, Mum. Stop hating on other people for what they believe in. You have already ruined many relationships with many of friends and family. Why can't you keep your mind open and accept the fact that people who are different also exist? At this point, the tension in the room can be cut with a knife. Innocent cousin's like, please cool cousin, that's enough. No, that isn't enough. She's already harmed OP and she will be willing to do the same thing to you if you marry him. Then Entitled Auntie had the guts to smack CC across the mouth for speaking the truth. She's like, you son of a bitch, I raised you for 18 years, and now you are supporting kafirs. I am an atheist. She was talking about me. So I say, that's enough, Entitled Auntie. Don't you realize that the more you try to push your own agenda on others, the more you will be hated? Even your own son hates you for your actions. The son which raised you. It's about time someone called you out on your stupid actions, like trying to kill me. Poor boyfriend and innocent cousin are getting married whether you like it or not. PBF is like, thanks man. Entitled Auntie and Cool Cousin have finally calmed down. Cool Cousin says, "Mum, please just for once open your mind. Please don't always be so opposed to the actions of other people. Please, Mum, I implore you to work with us this time." Entitled Auntie says, "Sorry, Cool Cousin, I simply can't. And if you want to stay with OP, poor boyfriend, and innocent cousin, just know that I will never consider you to be son." After Entitled Auntie said that, she cut off contact with her son who was in college. This still remains a very touchy subject, and most of my family doesn't want to talk about it. 2 months after the incident, poor boyfriend and innocent cousin got married in a church. Me and Cool Cousin remained close with them, and we occasionally hang out sometimes. Entitled Auntie went to Dubai to live with her husband. The rest of our families accepted the marriage without any problems. Very epic. Alright, and now our next post is by user Taipan821, titled Entitled Mother vs Emergency Services. So this story, again it happened many years ago involving an ambulance. There was a family fun day and emergency services had sent some vehicles down as displays, for kids to clamber over and have fun with. However, emergency service workers get bored. So behind the display was a selection of operational vehicles, parked up, and the operational crews having fun. We're talking fire trucks, police cars and ambulances. What? We were bored that day. Now, the difference between a display and an operational ambulance. The display ambulance has the drugs locked away. The operational ambulance has the drugs easy to access. Operational vehicles stay locked at all times, while drugs are inside. The story begins with myself, in my paramedic uniform next to the operational ambulance on my phone. A kid comes up and demands to crawl over the vehicle. The answer is no, and he is directed to the display model. A short time later, the mother turns up and demands the kid is allowed to go through the vehicle, as the other one has a long line. The answer is still no. It is an operational vehicle and is required to be able to respond at any moment. She continues to demand, so I direct her to the crew at the display ambulance, making her their problem. I don't hear from the entitled mother again. 30 minutes later, we are activated for car crash. The fire truck responds, we respond, and a police car respond. We get on the scene, not catastrophic. The occupants have self-extricated and oh dear, it's the entitled mother and her kid, complaining of neck pain. I guess you get that ambulance ride then, Karen. Congratulations. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that one. Our next post is by Mush Tilly, titled Karen Demands That Hospital Gives Her Dozens of Masks. Backstory. My uncle is a doctor and he shared this story with me and the rest of our family. The cast are Uncle, Karen, security guard. The story. A few days ago, while Uncle was working in the hospital, he was sanitizing some personal protective equipment, as his hospital was having a shortage of them. He had just finished cleaning them when Karen busted the doors open, and after waiting less than 10 seconds, shouted, "Excuse me?" Uncle saw her and asked her what she needed. "I need some face masks." Uncle, thinking that she may be collecting for a family member, "How many?" Note, my uncle wasn't supposed to even offer her any masks, but he believed that she may actually have needed them. 30 or 40? Uncle, flabbergasted. "May I ask you why you need so many?" "Well, I want to go shopping. Sitting at home these weeks has been the worst." First of all, you shouldn't be leaving your house in the first place unless it is totally necessary. Second, why do you need so many? "Well, I want to go shopping every day, and I don't want to reuse masks like a peasant." I'm sorry, but we're already suffering from a shortage of supplies. I can't give you PPE unless it's absolutely necessary. "Well, why did you ask how many I need if you weren't going to give me any? I thought that you needed them, not that you wanted to go shopping." At this point, Karen runs up to Uncle and knocks over his cart of freshly sanitized PPE and starts to grab as many as she possibly can. The cart being knocked down makes a very loud noise, attracting the attention of security. So security comes over and says, "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." Karen says, "This is your job, I need to go shopping." Security is forced to drag Karen outside as she screams about how she'll sue the hospital for not catering to her needs and assaulting her. Uncle is then forced to re-sanitize the PPE, which takes him almost 2 hours. Edit, I see that in the comments, Many of you are asking why my uncle was sanitizing masks as a doctor. The assistants who were supposed to be doing all of this work had quit or refused to show up, leaving this job to the doctors. My uncle has been working as a doctor for only about 4 years, making him much younger and much more inexperienced than some of the other doctors there, so he volunteered to do the work of sanitizing the masks. Others have been asking why my uncle was cleaning the masks in an area with public access. When my uncle was cleaning the masks, he was in a protected area, but after he finished cleaning them, he was returning them to the area where they belonged, and that is when he encountered Karen. I hope this clears things up. Alright, and our next post is by user Slenderman20081, titled Homophobic Karen Wants Me to Draw for Her. Tak is the almighty homophobic Karen. K is kid, GF is girlfriend, me is mystical enchiladas. Okay, so a bit of backstory. I like to draw. I like to draw a lot. And anyway, I posted a drawing I did for my girlfriend's birthday onto my DeviantArt because I know she hadn't followed me on it, and I wanted to ask people's opinion on it. Anyway, later when I was editing the drawing thanks to a couple of comments I got, I get a notification saying I had a message on DeviantArt. I opened it up and the message said, "Hello Fredbear19874, which is my DeviantArt name. I saw your drawing of these creepypastas. Me and my girlfriend both love creepypastas. And I was wondering if you would draw something for me. You see, it is my kid's birthday and he loves creepypastas. I can't find anyone who is willing to do it for me. Please reply with your answer ASAP. TAHK. Now, as I said, this drawing was for my girlfriend, and I'm not comfortable with drawing things for people unless I know I'm close with them, so naturally I replied with, "Hello Karen, I'm sorry but I cannot draw anything for you. I am not very comfortable with drawing things for people who I have never met, or I am not very close with. I hope you can understand, Fredbear19874. I didn't expect a reply, so I went back to editing the drawing. I get another notification and clicked on it, and lo and behold, Karen had replied again. To Fredbear19874, if you aren't comfortable drawing for people, why did you draw this? This is someone else, you're just being selfish. I have to reread the message a couple of times, and I'm starting to stress out a bit. I have autism, and even though this wasn't in person, it was still panicking me. Anyway, I reply with, to Karen, I drew this for my girlfriend, as I am extremely close to her and it is her birthday. And anyway, even if I were going to draw for you, you would have to pay me, which again, I am not comfortable with, as you may not like my work and I would have to refund you without getting anything back, meaning I would have wasted hours of my life for no reason. If I knew you personally, I would consider it, but as it stands, I have never met you, and I am not comfortable with it, as I have stated many times already. It isn't going to happen, please leave me alone, Fredbear19874. I didn't even bother going back to my drawing at this point. I got a message a few minutes later saying, Fredbear19874, that's fine by me, I don't want a drawing by a… anyway. You gays are sinners and should all die. I wouldn't accept a drawing from you even if you paid me. She sent a few more messages, but I ignored them. That message left me shaken and I could feel a panic attack coming on. I just closed DeviantArt and went back to my drawing, trying to get it out of my mind. A lot of my family are homophobic and I'm currently closeted. Just to clear up, I am a female and it is very apparent on my DeviantArt as I have a self-portrait on it, and I have since deleted the post as I wasn't comfortable with it being up after that. I hope at least one person liked my story. Bye! Well, thank you for sharing that one, OP. And our last post is by user the Legend, titled Entitled Mother Tries to Steal My Keys and Makes Fun of My Hearing Aids. So, backstory. My parents were having a garage sale, and it was a big one. We had to take our truck and car to make room. We had items in total sold in about $1,000. I asked if I can ride my quad around. They said that I can't drive over the driveway for safety, and I can't do my normal course, which I listened to them. After a while driving in the backyard, which I do to warm up the engine because it would like to turn off when cold, I moved to the front yard. Some mums brought their kids, and some were staring. So I went over near the driveway to them, and the kid wanted to try the quad. So I let him rev it, not ride it, obviously. I went my ways, and after a while, an SUV pulls up on the side of the road like other people and gets out her 5-year-old son, and the first thing he sees or points at is my quad. I believe he said that he wanted one of those. For backstory, I have rode quads since I was 6. I only wrecked in total of 5 times. Broken someone's arm without anyone's knowing, and my sister did a barrel roll crash. The quad was messed up so nobody else can ride it but me. Everything bought fixed, but a crack in the handlebar plastic, and some scratches. Now back to the story. The kid points to the quad, guessing he said that he wanted one, and I went over. I went over fast, but slowed immediately, just to show off. I go over and say hi to both of them. I turned off the quad so I can hear them, and I answered some questions from both of them, and the kid asked if he can try, and I let him rev it. The mum helped him up, and I tried turning the quad on, and it turned on, but I accidentally let go of the brake, and it went forward about a yard onto the road. So I went backwards and apologized, but the mum looked paranoid. I showed the kid the throttle, but the mum stops her kid and it went like this. "You can't ride that," the entitled mother says. I asked why and she said, "You almost ran my angle over." Her kid was about 5 feet away from the quad, so there was nowhere near my tires. I said he wasn't anywhere near any of my tires, and she of course cuts me off. Entitled mother says, "I don't care, you still were near him. You shouldn't have this. He should have it better than you, since he can drive better than you." At the time I was 13, and drove quads for 7 years. I told her that I drove for 7 years and she said, "Bullcrap, you look like you're 10. I got mad at that point. I tried turning the quad back on as it stalled, and it wouldn't budge. So I went for the choke, and flicked it up. While I was doing that, entitled mother grabbed my keys and put it in her pocket. I go to turn the key, but it isn't there. I look around, and ask her where my keys went. She said the same thing. "I still don't think you should drive." That made me realize that she took them, so I say, "Give me my keys back." I emphasized my to make it in her mind that it is hers. I take off my helmet and reveal my hearing aids. Remember my hearing aids for now. I go to her and ask for my keys again, and she shoved me back. And I look at her pockets and find the bulge, ooh-woo, of my keys. I try reaching for her pockets and she pushes me back, and screams the casual line, "Help, he is assaulting me." Obviously trying to make a scene and people onto her side. My dad looks over and sees me and her shoving each other. He runs over and asks what happened, and the dialogue went like this. Cut off by Karen, "He assaulted me." "No I didn't, you stole my keys for my quad." "No I didn't, you tried to run over my son." Dad says, "Both of you shut the hell up." A drill sergeant type yell. Then there's silence, and he says, I the legend, what happened?" The kid wanted to rev my quad, so I tried starting my quad, but I accidentally left off the brake, and when it was on the gas, and the quad went up a yard on the road, and I reversed back, and then she accused me of almost hurting her son, and when I tried starting it up again with percussion, she took my key. I'm trying to put what I think I said. While this happened, a guy comes down to us. Cue the heaven music, as he saved me. His name would be SA for Savior. Savior says, "I saw what happened." "You did? Then tell me what happened." He told my dad about the same story as mine, and Karen gets red hot in anger. My dad asked for my keys back, and she took it out of her pocket, but threw it in the yard. Luckily it had a big chain, and said to me, "Go get the keys, Mr. Mechanical Ears." I knew she was making fun of me, so I said, "Go get a husband, you single idiot," because she didn't have a wedding ring. She stomped off and drove away. I feel bad for that kid. He just wanted to press a throttle. Never saw that Karen again, and me and my dad kept making fun of her. We thanked the Savior, and all was good. I was on mobile at the time, so there might be spelling errors in the story. Edit. Also, she said before she took my keys, when she said I shouldn't be riding, that I am a dangerous driver and pointed to the demanded I break her son out of jail. So, some quick backgrounds. I work in a county jail, and I'm the guy you want working the floor, housing units and roving. I'm pretty good at dealing with talking to the inmates, and I'm even better when we're past the point of talking. That being said, every officer is required to work a guard station at least once a month, even me. These stations are just dealing with the public, answering phones and/or opening and closing doors. Okay, cool. On one such guard station shift, Karen storms in. She's a southern kind of Karen. Totally unkempt hair, ratty clothes, and at least 5 missing teeth. A criminal record that's largely drug-related charges, you know the type. She marches into my lobby, and up to my bulletproof window. I hit the intercom, and the following conversation ensues. I say to her, "Can I help you?" And she says, "My son, entitled kid, needs to be released right now. He's served his time and needs to come home." I look up the entitled kid on the jail computer. I say, "Ma'am, he's got a holdout of blah blah county. He'll have to go to court and serve time there first." "No, he needs to be released now. His time here is done. He can go to blah blah county after he comes home." Me, already over it, say, "Ma'am, this isn't a hotel. The law requires that he's in custody until he answers for the crimes that he's charged with. If I release entitled kid, I will be fired and arrested." "Aren't you supposed to serve and protect?" "Yes, I am, ma'am. Entitled kid was charged with domestic assault and has felony charges in blah blah county. Keeping him in custody serves and protects the community." "How dare you? My son is a good boy and he doesn't deserve this. The other inmates are threatening him. What are you going to do to serve and protect him?" Me, suppressing a grin, says, "Well, ma'am, I'll go ahead and make an announcement to the other inmates to leave him alone, and that he called his mother and that she's not happy with their behavior. I'm sure that won't put him in any danger. I demand to speak with your supervisor." Me, knowing that Sarge is about the last guy that you want to piss off, say, "It would be my pleasure to let you speak to my supervisor." Sarge arrives and asks Karen what the issue is. She rants and raves for about 15, I kid you not, minutes, about her sweet boy being wrongfully incarcerated, my behavior, how entitled kid is in danger, and he's served his time. She concluded that if we didn't release entitled kid, she would raise hell in the lobby. At this point, Sarge raises an eyebrow in a look that I know pretty well. It's a look that means, "I'm genuinely impressed that you're this stupid." He says, "I remember you. You've been in jail before. Wonder where entitled kid got it." Karen goes to rant again, and Sarge cuts her off. "So much as a fart in my lobby, jail cops are going to arrest you on disorderly. Every officer was deputized, and I have been through police academy and patrol to boot. Entitled kid is going to pay for what he's done on our schedule, not yours and certainly not his. You are going to leave my jail and never come back. If you ever come back here again, you'll be charged with criminal trespass. Now, why don't you go outside and play hide and go screw yourself?" Karen doesn't even think about mouthing off again. She all but runs out of the lobby. Sarge and I have a laugh about it later. Amazingly, Karen never filed any complaints. Not that this would have got her anywhere. This is how the South do. Alright, and with that done, we're on to our next post by GamerGuy3D. Gang signs. This happened a while ago. I was eating at a Burger King with my family and wearing a hoodie, which is important for later. I was 15 at the time when an entitled mother and her kid, who was not entitled, sat down with some food. I was talking with my brother and he showed me a Minecraft house that he built, and I was impressed. So I pulled out this "okay" sign, as a sign of appreciation, you know? So I took a big bite out of my double whopper. Well, my dad needed to go to the restroom, so he left to go. And the entitled mother came and gave me a "What are you doing?" Eating." "You pulled a gang sign." Ma'am, entitled mother interrupts me. "I saw that gang sign. I don't want you to teach my little son gang signs." The kid looked as this was normal behavior. He looked embarrassed. He looked about 10. Me, who feels bad for the kid. "Ma'am, I'm not using gang signs. Everyone uses it. Only gang members do that." An employee that looks 19 was minding her own business when the entitled mother looks at her. "You, do young people use this gang sign?" Pulls up, "Gang sign?" Employee's like, yeah? So? "So, kick this kid out for teaching my angel gang signs." The kid finishes the last of his kid's meal quickly and says, "We should go, Mum." "Honey, Mummy is getting some justice." Looks at me. I'm gonna get you in jail. Manager comes over and is like, what's going on here? The employee's like, this lady is complaining that this guy is using gang signs. Ma'am, what sign did he use? This! Gah! The manager then laughs. That is a regular sign. Employee says, I know, right? Entitled mother says, ha! Let's go, honey. We don't need to see these gang members. And she storms off. Manager tells me that she's sorry that she thinks teens with hoodies are gang members. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. He then gave me and my family a free dessert of choice for having to go through that. Well, that went well, in the end at least. Hope you enjoy my story and wash your hands. Edit, I was wearing a black hoodie with some black jeans, and apparently I joined a bad gang. Don't want to be messing around with them now, do ya? Now our next post is by The Rumour Hargreaves, titled, Entitled Mother Doesn't Know How Grocery Shopping Works. So I was hoping my entitled aunt would be the only stupid person I submitted here, but alas, stupid people are everywhere. Sorry for any mistakes, I screwed up my thumb, so typing is weird. Careful in the kitchen, kiddos. So I was doing a run to Walmart about a week ago now, and it was going surprisingly smoothly. Waiting to check out took a while, but I finally found chicken broth, so I wasn't bothered. Lots of the stories here have been about shopping horrors, and I was feeling pretty great. Mistakes all around. Once the person in front of me was done, I loaded up the belt thingy. I'm very short and my cart was in the way, so I couldn't quite reach the back of the conveyor, which is fine, because I still had half a cart full of stuff. In comes Entitled Mother. The cart was between us, which maintained some distance, but she started to load all of her crap before I had a chance to pass the halfway mark on mine. I asked her to please wait, and all I got was, I have more things than you, so I should go first. Since you were rude enough to go before me, I won't let you slow my day down further. She had been nowhere close to me, but I asked if she'd tried to get my attention. Could have been spacing. I had an earbud in and tend to be a little stupid. Entitled Mother literally snorted and said that I should have asked if she wanted to go in front of me since she was a mother. I saw no child, so I'll have to take her word for it. She turned everything into a huge clusterfuck, and used it to try to get me to pay for her groceries too, since they're all mixed up and it would be so much faster. The cashier was obviously used to this. She only looked up once to assess the situation, and since it didn't seem like we were coming to blows, she just kept going. Kept our stuff separated too. I wanted to high-five her, but I wish I had done something cooler, but I just gave Entitled Mother the death stare my mum taught me to use against my dad, and she finally left me alone. I just don't get why people can't be normal human beings right now. Stay safe, everyone. Alright, and our next post is by Super Blooper Boss, titled, Entitled Mother Demands We Stop Eating. Annoying Mum Demands We Stop Eating. So this is a short story, but I still wanted to share it. For some backstory, it was my cousin's birthday, and she wanted to go eat at a Texas Roadhouse. It's kinda like the Longhorn Steakhouse, if any of you know what that is, but with country music and sports. The one I went to was a private room with no windows, other than the one with the view to the city. The room had just enough space for one party at a time, so we were the only ones there. We were eating for a long time because of the birthday, but then I saw her. Enter the entitled parent. Our cast are me, mum, dad, auntie 1, auntie 2, uncle, entitled parent, manager, the birthday girl, and my other cousin, and my big brother. So, I saw the entitled parent walk up to the table briskly. She had a bright pink purse and what looked like a clear Axe bottle spray filled with something. Her 2 kids, who seemed about 8 to 10 years old, walked in tow. Entitled parent says, hello, are you the people that have been eating for an hour? My dad says, yes, it's cousin 1's birthday and we're waiting for desserts. Entitled parent says, me and my kids are very hungry, please leave now. I had a reservation for this room and I have been waiting for an hour. We knew that this was total BS, because when we booked, the room said we were going to be there for at least 2 hours. So I say, just wait, it's packed today, but please leave us alone. Shut up, brat, you're just selfish, and you don't want my babies to eat. Everyone but me, my dad, my brother, and my cousin started whispering to each other. My bro's like, please just leave us alone so we can celebrate her birthday. The entitled parent storms off, and the 10-year-old apologized for her mum, We thought that was it, but right when dessert came to the table is when entitled parent stormed over. "Eat quickly." Dad's like, "Leave us alone or I'll get management." Entitled parent reached for her clear bottle. She then stated that it was a spray bottle of vinegar and said that if we don't leave at that moment, that she'll spray us. You would think it's not that bad, but apple cider vinegar is not that nice. Dad's like, "We're not leaving." Entitled parent then starts spraying. We all got up and ran for management, but my dad fought back. When the manager came over, he saw my dad having entitled parent pinned to the ground, and the bottle far away on the floor. Manager's like, "What is happening? She tried to spray up. This man tried to take advantage of me, then beat me up." Entitled parent's 2 kids stepped in. Kid 1's like, "No, that's not true." He looked 10 years old. Kid 2's like, "Mummy tried to force them to stop eating." Manager's like, "Is this true?" And we all agreed. Entitled parent started denying it, so then the manager brought us to the camera room and she was forced to watch as she was proved wrong. The kid's dad was called and he picked them up. The cops were called and asked if we wanted to press charges. My dad said yes and we went on with the dessert. The manager already took the desserts and got us fresh ones. The entire meal was free and he apologized for the accident. We also saw people leave because of the smell that was mixed in with a bottle of the vinegar. This may seem fake, but I assure you, this was not. The experience sucked, but at the end we got a free meal. My family still jokes about it, and it's something we'll never forget. I still can't believe that happened. Alright, and our next post is by L4TT3M4CC14T0, or more graciously known as Latte Macchiato. Titled, "Entitled Mother Thinks It's Okay for Her Entitled Brat to Stalk and Attack Me." Mobile warning and English warning, yada yada, you know the drill. This story was from about a month ago, and I only got reminded by it because the entitled brat and her boy toy are fudging around near my boyfriend's house. And it's my cake day, so screw it, I'm posting it. EB, entitled brat / yada. Hey, I don't care about your privacy anymore, so screw you. EM, tramp daughter creator. EK, entitled brother's older sister. M is my mum, BF is hubby, and me is me. So in the past, I wrote multiple stories about the entitled brat or yada, and how she would continuously harass and stalk me to the point that I didn't feel safe without a knife. In the meantime, I had called and visited the police multiple times with digital and physical proof of stuff that she did to me, and after 3 months, they decided to get off their lazy asses and force a restraining order upon her. I have more stories about her, but now we're here for the demon summoner herself, the entitled mother. When my boyfriend and I were dropped off by my father-in-law, we met the entitled mother and her 2 demon spawns, entitled brat and entitled kid. They gave us dirty looks, and to be honest, it took the biggest effort to not simply give a friendly wave. But because we had better things to do, we went on our merry way. This part of the story is told by my mum, so I don't have any dialogue. So my mum was shopping in the same store. Entitled mother entered, and crap hit the fan. As soon as entitled mother saw my mum, she verbally attacked her, saying that I'm a lying piece of crap and whatnot, and threatening to kick my ass, as I don't have a restraining order against her, the entitled mother. My mum, being the smarter one, and knowing that she's lying, simply told entitled mother that her own entitled brat is the one lying, simply because I have both video and screenshots as proof. My mum simply turned around and went on with her shopping, but not without the entitled mother, entitled kid, and entitled brat following her and throwing insults at her. My mum was done with it, and scanned her stuff and went to a different supermarket. But the entitled mother and her brain-dead family followed her. This went on, according to my mum, for about 3 stores, until my mum had it, and just went to her car and drove back home, but not without the entitled mother tailing her on her way home. It was not until my mum grabbed her phone to dial 112 that entitled mother made a U-turn and sped off. Sadly, no exiting ending, as the police is once again not doing their work. Alrighty, now with that story done, we're on to our next post by I Fear Bears, titled, "Entitled Mother Stole My Autistic Brother's Toy." I genuinely can't believe I'm writing this. People are so fudging unbelievable sometimes. So my brother is 7 and he has autism. He's extremely shy/quiet and always carries around a stuffed giraffe that my aunt bought him when he was a baby. It has his initials embroidered on its back leg. He squeezes it when he's scared or upset. My parents' jobs are still open, so they're at work from around 8 AM to 5:30 PM. I'm 18 and my school is online, and I have been temporarily laid off from my job, so I'm home all day with my brother. I've been doing all the grocery shopping, and because my brother isn't old enough to stay at home, he comes along with me. Today we had to go to Walmart because we ran out of some food that we needed. My brother was walking behind me while I pushed the cart. We walked past a woman and a kid about my brother's age after we checked out, and I didn't think anything of it until I heard my brother start sniffling. I turned around to look at him and he started full-blown crying, and that's when I noticed that his giraffe was gone. I asked him if he knew where it went, and he just pointed back to where we came from. So we retraced our steps, and I looked around for it. A few aisles later, we came across the woman and the kid again. The kid had the giraffe and he was beating it against the shelves as he walked. When my brother saw this, he started crying harder, because he treats his giraffe like it's made of glass. I put him in the cart and walked over to the woman. This is basically how it went. I say to her, "I'm sorry, I think your kid took my brother's stuffed giraffe. Could he have it back?" "No, it belongs to my son." "It's definitely my brother's. His initials are on the back leg. He's autistic and it means a lot to him, so please give it back." "Well, if it is his, he should hold on to it tighter. It's not my problem that he's too stupid to hold on to his crap." She started walking away after this, so I just went up to her kid and grabbed it out of his hands. The minute entitled mother heard it, she whipped around and started screaming about how I assaulted her kid and that she was going to have me arrested for theft and call CPS for my brother. I was fudging livid, but I thought if I said anything else she might get physical, and I didn't want my brother to see that. I gave him his giraffe back, and we got the hell out of there before she could try anything. Edit, thank you for the awards. Edit 2, we all want you to know Splotch, his giraffe, is happy and currently having giraffe nap time. Aw, that's cute. Alright, and our next post is by user Decompression Illness. Titled, Entitled Mother Aggressively Suggests I Hand Over My Switch because I'm a university student who should be working. So, I've been off university for a while due to the current pandemic, and elected to go home rather than isolate alone in my university's halls. As such, I've been able to save some money on petrol and decided to buy a Switch while in lockdown for something to do. Half was paid by me, the other half was paid by my twin. This saved us money as Switches, not the Lite version, are currently going for £100 more than their usual price due to high demand. Yesterday I was sat in my front yard, with the Switch, talking to my father who was cleaning his car. I offered to help, but he declined, so I spent half an hour keeping him company while playing Cyber Sleuth. The current lockdown rules in the UK mean that someone can only leave their house for daily exercise, shopping for essentials, or key workers needing to go to work. Entitled Mother has 3 children, 2 of which were with her when they returned from their daily walk yesterday. We've always been on friendly terms with the family, so she stopped and said hello before the following conversation happened. She comes and says, "Is that one of those Switch things? Jacob has been nagging me for one, but I can't find one anywhere that isn't fairly priced." Yes, it was a nightmare getting hold of this one. Chris and I had to buy it between us to save money. "Can I buy it off you? I had £300 saved for one. You can go looking for another on eBay." "No, sorry. This one cost £410 between us. I wouldn't sell it for £100 less. Not even a week after purchase. Plus we do in fact want to play on it. Why does the extra £100 matter when you get money from the government anyway? You mean my student maintenance loan that I had to live on, and the further £130 that I saved each week from doing a part-time bar work? The Switch was bought with money from my job. Not that that should matter. I've already told you once that I'm not selling it to you. You shouldn't have a Switch anyway. University students are supposed to work, not play kids games. I think it would be better if my son had the game and you started working." At this point she started moving closer to me. "Look, I think it would be better if I stopped talking to you." So I got up and walked towards my front door. Entitled Mother looked like she was going to follow me, but thought better of it when she spotted our neighbor looking through the window to see what was going on. Entitled Mother glared at me for a few seconds before turning and walking away. I gave her a cheerful wave and returned to my house. Never thought I'd catch one in the wild, let alone it be a usually friendly neighbor. Alright, and our next post is by user Bronze Butterfly. titled, "You need to stop making plans for your birthday because I have plans for your birthday." TLDR, entitled father wants me to cancel my birthday plans so he can take me to a birthday dinner and take pictures of it to show off. So this is another tale about my entitled father. This was a few days before my second last birthday spent with his family. I left the following year. The whole family was in the supermarket getting some groceries. You know, the usual crap. Knowing full well that they wouldn't get me anything for my birthday and barely even acknowledge it, I decided that I was going to buy a small cake and a one-person bottle of green apple vodka, my favorite kind. I mentioned that these were going to be my birthday treats and that I had plans to just stay in my room and watch movies with them. He immediately starts getting huffy and starts hinting that I shouldn't make any plans for my birthday at all. Upon questioning him, he refused to let me know exactly why that was. I knew full well he wasn't the type to throw me any sort of surprise party, so I knew it wouldn't be that. Me and my paranoid self, I later realized that was more common sense than paranoia, kept wondering what he would be up to. He promised to pay for my driving lessons, and he never did that. He promised to buy me a certain thing for a Christmas gift, he didn't do that. Why would I actually expect him to keep his word this time? My birthday comes and I emerge from my lair to go and make a sandwich, or something for breakfast. After all, unlike the others, I don't get a fancy breakfast, so that was also something else I did not expect. When I turn the corner, him and the rest of the bitches are all there with completely insincere smiles on their faces, cheering and shouting, "Happy birthday, OP! Get the hell away from me!" It immediately puts me even more on edge than I normally am around them. What do they want from me? I feel no happiness at all from this pseudo-display of happiness from them. My stepmother says they want to take me out to dinner for that day and told me to choose a place. Hesitantly, I did, but the place was closed, so we ended up going to my second choice of place. I got to order what I wanted, and I chose the cheapest thing because I was still wary of them, and mostly enjoyed it. They took pictures, we go home and pretend all is well. A few days later, I see pictures on his social media of the birthday dinner, saying that he treated me that day because of my essentially forced, unpaid, unappreciated care of my recently deceased entitled grandmother. She was another set of frickery altogether. I may post about her one day. Oh, okay then, now I finally knew his real motives. He just wanted to look good and flex on his friends and other family members, especially the ones that he didn't really like. Of course. And our next post is by user HollyHeart1, titled, "My girlfriend's parents threatened to come to my house if we didn't break up." So my girlfriend and I have been dating for over a month, closer to 2 months by now. We're a lesbian couple, my mum is alright with it of course, my dad's iffy. He's got a you do you attitude and I appreciate it. Her parents on the other hand, where do I even begin? Her mum's a pathological liar. When girlfriend and I had just started dating, and we're still hiding it from them, I had invited her to my birthday celebration. Her mum told her that my mum called to let her know it was cancelled. You see, the problem with that is she doesn't have my mum's number. I contacted her directly. Later that day, my state's lockdown order was issued. Instead of sending a text to tell me, her mum straight up called and rubbed it in my face. I don't know if you heard, but there's a lockdown. Girlfriend's name can't go, and it pretty much shut down your party for you. Yes, she actually said that. When my girlfriend came out to her parents, they told her that she was just going through a phase. They then said that because we haven't done anything romantic, we're not a real couple. 1, what can we even do right now? And 2, hugs, kisses and chocolate is not her love language. Her parents then told her that if she continues to see me, they'll take away everything she owns, so she has no way of communicating with me. They even said they'll come to my house to yell at me. Little do her parents know that my entire family is full of aggressive jerks who aren't afraid to cut a tramp, or in this case, scream at one. Her dad is denying her lesbianism entirely. Girlfriend has pretty much nothing to do right now, so she stares out the window. Honestly, can relate. One of her neighbors passed by and her dad said, "Staring at boys again, I see." He was in college, she's not even a senior in high school. He claims I'm a bad influence and I'm teaching her bad habits. I have never even met the guy. He won't even give me a chance. But anyway, right now we're still dating. I'm using a fake account pretending to be a guy so we can date secretly. I'll update if anything goes wrong. Also, sorry for the semi-clickbait title. Update: this morning her mum tried to drag her to a post office, and when girlfriend refused, her mum called her a tramp and a brat and said she wishes she could hit her. Crap's hitting the fan, y'all. Alrighty, and our next post is by user Sub to Dead Meat. We read a story from them yesterday, titled "Ultra Religious Aunt Embarrasses Everyone by Insulting Relative for Wearing a Tank Top." Hey guys, I'll be translating this post from Arabic to English, so I'm sorry if some translations seem off. Backstory: entitled auntie is an ultra-religious Muslim who almost killed me because of my religious affiliation, and I already posted that story. And that's actually the first time entitled auntie has been out in her place. Introducing the cast: EA, entitled aunt, NU, nice uncle, OP, yours truly, and PR, poor relative. It was a nice hot summer afternoon in Australia. We were having a nice family reunion in the backyard, cooking meat on the grill, and relaxing with each other. Poor relative, who was 15 at the time, and I were talking and catching up, when out of nowhere, entitled auntie pops out, and says, "Aren't you a little young to be wearing this outfit?" Excuse me? Keep in mind that poor relative was wearing a tank top because the temperature was 30 degrees Celsius out there. You look like a tramp in that tank top. She decided to crank it up to 100. "Ma'am, it's 30 degrees out here." Entitled auntie started yelling the second I opened my mouth. "I don't remember asking you for your fudging opinion, you Wiccan. Please ma'am, it's so hot out here, so I would really appreciate it if you would— Don't you have any respect, you tramp? You are disrespecting your religion and I by wearing these trampy clothes." At this point, the entire neighborhood was hearing us argue. Entitled auntie had a reputation for embarrassing my grandpa after arguing about religion with his neighbors, so I had to calm the situation down, so that we won't get the cops called on us. I say, "Please ma'am, I'm begging you to stop making a scene every time someone does something that you don't necessarily agree with." At this point, entitled auntie tried to slap poor relative, but luckily her husband, nice uncle, stopped her before she did. And she says, "Why aren't you letting me punish her? She is disrespecting us and our religion." "Because you're hitting someone for doing what they want?" Poor relative, who was a Christian, started yelling too. "Take her to a fudging mental institution. She's clinically insane." That's enough, you guys. Especially entitled auntie. Stop making a fuss like a 2-year-old whenever you see something that you disagree with. Now entitled auntie was trying to hit me because, why not? And at this point, nice uncle snapped. "I've had enough of you, entitled auntie. You have to produce religious tension every time you go to a family reunion. You have always been embarrassing me and my son because someone believes in a different religion. I am sick and tired of this bullcrap. If you do this to anyone one more time, you and I are gonna have a serious discussion." At last, entitled auntie has been put in her place for what seemed like the last time, and she shut up for the rest of the day. Before everyone left for their homes, nice uncle came and apologized for his wife's actions, and he promised us that this was the last time entitled auntie will act like this, and he delivered on his promises until he died 2 years later. After he died, entitled auntie got married to a man from the United Arab Emirates and began acting like she did before nice uncle died. In the end, it took one wedding with many problems to put her in her place for good. Entitled mother lets her kid steal my blind cane. So, a bit of backstory. I am a 28-year-old woman who recently just went fully blind. When I was a teenager, I volunteered with my local youth group to help rebuild Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina. And while down there, I picked up a fungal parasite called histoplasmosis that over a decade migrated to my eyes and slowly caused blindness. I've been totally blind for about a year now, so I'm pretty new to it, but I digress. When I first went blind, I barely left the house and was afraid to go in public. I felt like everyone was staring at me, and in all honesty, I barely knew what I was doing. The transition had been difficult and I didn't have any support group to teach me. One day, my husband asks if I can take an Uber down to the bank and deposit a rent check, and I reluctantly agree. While out, he messages again and reminds me that we're out of a few crucial groceries. There was a Walmart grocery literally across the street from the bank, so I figure everything in life is an experience, and I'll have to learn how to shop alone eventually, so why not? Everything was fine at first, and I was only grabbing a few things, so I didn't need a cart. I was using my cane and what little echolocation skills I had at the time to get around, but was still bumping into things, as we blind tend to do sometimes. My cane suddenly hit something a bit softer, and I figured maybe I had whacked someone's leg, and I apologize. Cue entitled kid and entitled mother. I say, "Shoot, I'm sorry. Hey, you just hit my son." "I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't see him there." "How could you not see him? He's clearly right here." Now, I'm fully blind, but I don't wear sunglasses, mostly because I can't afford a good UV blocking pair, but also I'm not ever looking for pity or to play the part of a generic blind person. I just want to be treated like a normal person, but I do understand her confusion as blindness is a spectrum, so I try to calmly explain. "Ma'am, I'm blind. I can't see anything, let alone your son. That's why I have to use the cane, so I can get around without..." She cuts me off. "If you're blind, why aren't you wearing big sunglasses?" Now, as a blind person, I get a lot of stupid questions, but I understand a lot of them are just people who don't know better, so I try to happily answer as many as I can. I say, those are really expensive, around $200 for a good pair, and I really don't need any inside. "You're not blind, you're faking it." Here is where my blood starts to boil. I can't think of any reason someone would want to pretend to be blind. It's an actual hell, and nothing pisses me off more than when someone calls me a liar when I'm not. Just as I'm about to respond, I feel a tug, and before I blink, I realize this little demon spawn has snatched my $100 cane from my hands. For those of you who don't understand, that's like if you're shopping and suddenly the power goes out and you can't see a single light. Without my cane, I can barely move at all without crashing into anything. My voice gets shaky as I begin to panic. "Please give that back, I really do need it." "No you don't, you liar. My son deserves to play with this more than you." I hear her shuffle away and my expensive cane cracking into metal displays and such as they leave. I start crying and waving my arms in front of me to grab onto something, anything, and end up falling into a center aisle display, making a loud scene. Without fail, I somewhat curl into a ball and cry. I'm alone in public, in the dark, and I had no idea what to do. Suddenly, I feel a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice. We'll call him AG for Awesome Guy, and asks if I'm okay and to stay right here. I do, but begin to at least sit up and listen. This man must have been tall and built like a tank, because his footsteps sounded like a giant, and I felt a suction of wind when he took off. Maybe about 30 or 40 feet away, I hear this loud bellowing like an angry lion, and a loud crash. Then before I know it, the man is back and helping me to my feet. He takes my hand and puts the cane into my palm, and helps me pick up the items I dropped when I fell into the display. Me wiping tears from my cheeks says, Thank you so much. I didn't know how to handle that." "Don't worry about it, some people are just monsters." This guy restored my faith in humanity and even helped me finish shopping and helped me out of the store. As we're leaving, I can hear the familiar screech of entitled mother. Something about the awesome guy grabbing the cane and pulling hard, flinging her little devil child into a shopping cart. I don't know if she was exaggerating or not, but it would explain the crash I heard. It's easy to feel alone in a world without sight, but even through the sheer terror of being stripped of my cane, at least I know now that there are people willing to stand up for me when I need it. Edit, because of the sheer overwhelming amount of people asking, "If you're blind, how are you typing this?" I'll first answer with my fingers, and secondly, I'm using a screen reader called Narrator that reads the screen, wherever my cursor or finger is over the screen. It reads, when I type a letter, it reads. Guys, just Google it or something. Alrighty, and on to our next post by Christnabensmint. Incest is inevitable, do not resist. That's 2020's warning, guys. It is. So, just a little background. This happened a little while ago. Due to the Rona, I've had lots of time for nostalgia, so this happened around June or July 2019. My mother's side of the family is large, close, dramatic, and oftentimes unpleasant. There are maybe 5 people I unequivocally like, excepting my immediate family and my cousins, meaning I don't like my uncle's grandfather and one aunt. We all get on well enough, but my cousin R and I have been very close our whole lives. She's a few months older than me, so she was 19 when this happened. I was 18. It's also important that she's a woman and I'm a dude. During the summer and winter breaks, our families will congregate around our grandparents' house. Sometimes for weeks, people leave their kids, come and go. We all live less than an hour away, at a time. My mum, brothers, stepfather and I used to live there. So, it had been a long day, and we were deciding where to sleep. My brothers and ours siblings, plus our cousins from our other aunt and uncle, were talking about sleeping outside. R and I decided that we would like to sleep in real beds. Went inside and claimed my younger brother's old bedroom, which has 2 twin beds on opposite sides of the room. We watched the entirety of Chicago with our grandma, told her what room we'd be in, and went to bed. Her in the bed closer to the door. We showed each other some crappy memes, talked about boys, and then we turned the lamps out. I laid in bed, watching the bats outside. R stared at her phone. About 15 minutes later, the door opened up. It was one of our cousins, Zed, who's 17 female, and our oldest aunt, L, 45 female if you even care. They saw R there, and Zed and R asked if she could share the room with her. I mean, no? Why can't she? Because Kumhumha is in the other bed. Then my aunt flipped on the light like people weren't trying to sleep, flung the door open, and glared at me. Oh, that's kinda inappropriate. R and I shared a look. She's one of the 4 people in the family who knows I'm gay. Zed and L are not. This isn't Alabama, auntie. We're just sleeping in the same room. Yeah, but it could give our other cousins ideas. What? Look, mister, either go sleep outside or sleep downstairs. I don't care what you two say or think, mixed gender sleeping at your age is inappropriate. Well, our age is adult, auntie, and it isn't your house, and it doesn't really matter what you think, because I'm not getting out of this bed. You're welcome to try and move me. Stop being a disrespectful punk and move. End of discussion. You're right, it is. I'm not moving unless Grandma says so. And since she knows I'm sleeping her, I bet she won't. Leave me alone. Seriously, auntie, this is ridiculous. Young lady, I suggest you quiet down too before you have to move too. Come on, Cthulhu, don't be a jerk, just move rooms. F, our other cousin, is down in the basement. This is the dumbest crap I've ever had to put up with. Just shut up and leave me alone, okay? Then my aunt started chewing me out hardcore, and we wound up having a nice 3 AM shouting match over whether or not I could sleep in a bed I was already in. We're both theatre people and I'm a little deaf, so in the midst of it we woke up my grandma, Elle's mum, and other aunt, R's mum, who came to check it out. Grandma's like, "What's all the yelling for? Mr. Entitled here won't leave the bedroom and let my daughter sleep there. It's so wildly inappropriate. Ah, Cthulhu, y'all aren't gonna have sex or anything, right? Absolutely not. Never. Good enough for me." Grandma then walked away and went to bed, while Elle jabbered on about setting an example. Then R's mum grabbed her by the shoulder. "Elle, I love you, but if you wake up the whole house at 3 in the fudging morning over kids sharing a room again, there will be issues. Don't swear in front of my daughter. Can I please just go to bed somewhere? R's mum says the other couch in the living room is pretty comfy. I'll grab you a blanket." Absolutely not. Well, if you try and make the boy move again, you're gonna piss everyone off, including Mama. So maybe just stop being a tramp and let people sleep? Fine. When he apologizes for being rude to me. Not gonna happen, lady. Then I got up, ran over, closed and locked the door, while Elle yelled at me from the other side to open the hell up. R's mum, I'm surprised he didn't punch you in the face. I woulda. So yeah, weird 2 AM post about my auntie. Have fun. Alright, and our next post is by It Is I and I Love Me. Titled, Entitled Mother Yells at Me for Infecting Her Family with Corona Music. Let me introduce you to a new Karen, the Indian Karen. A little longer hair tied into a ponytail and rolled into a bun that serves the function of hiding all of the 7 deadly sins. A voice shrill enough to make all the street cows turn their head to look at their mistress. A gold necklace to announce her dreaded arrival. One that I encountered. I don't know if anyone has read this article. Basically, it tells how some scientists converted coronavirus's famous spike protein into music. I have no idea if it's legit. I thought if it's true, it's cool if someone was able to do it, and I thought I would share it. So I did. To Karen's son. Good person, good friend. He is happy that smart people are left in the world. Anyway, back to the story. The next morning my mum calls me from the other room, and I pick up. This was the conversation. In Punjabi, this is a rough translation. Hi Ma, you... I'm not reading that. How dare you infect my family? At this point, I just woke up and am still in the weird half asleep phase, wondering which sister I never had that she was talking about. Shut up, Karen, don't you dare speak to my son like that. I'll speak, shut up, or I am hanging up. What's going on? Who are you? I have Mrs. Karen on conference. Did you give her son coronavirus? What? No. Don't you lie. I have seen the music you sent my son. It's coronavirus. It took me a full minute to realize what she was talking about, and then it hit me. Have you even read the article? Don't talk back to your elders. You're acting pretty elderly now. Those two argued for about 15 plus minutes. They started yelling at each other about other things like I am a bad influence, Karen doesn't know how to talk to anyone, stuff like that. So I say it's a translation of what a scientist at MIT. I put a phone to the speaker, opened the article and started reading all the technical terms, which her 5th dropout ass would not understand. You are not making any sense. You're lying. To my mum, you thought him lied to what kind of mother are you? She finally breaks me. Apparently better than you. Did friends show this to you? Or did you open his phone without him knowing? Again. That is none of your business. So I cut the call and immediately call my friend. I tell him everything he's mad. This was the 6th time this month she had gone through his phone. Her excuse being, I don't want any local harlot to corrupt his son. It is my duty to make his son marry a proper Sikh girl without any distraction. What an epic story. Thank you so much, OP. And our next post is by What the Heck DND DM. Entitled Aunt demands my consoles for my cousin. This is the 2nd experience I've had in my 26 years of life, and I'm hoping that it'll be the last. Doubtful. I have a glass case at home. It has all my old consoles and a lot of retro ones that I brought through the years, as well as their games. It's my pride and joy, and sometimes I take them out and play on them. My cousin, who's 11 and a male, thinks they're cool, and likes to admire them when he used to come over. He knew not to touch them. Well, my auntie, the definition of Karen, calls and asked what I'm going to give him for his birthday. Keep in mind I hadn't received a gift from her since I was 5, yet she insists I need to give her child a gift. Usually I just toss him a couple bucks, and when I told her I hadn't thought about it, I knew I messed up. Well, how about we do a joint present? He really loves those games you keep in that case, and he's so bored since this silly flu started going around. Surely you can let him have one. I told her no, that they're not for sale. I wasn't asking to buy them. You would seriously charge family for something you don't use? I didn't know you were so selfish. He's been driving me up a wall. You can't just give him your Switch or something. Grammy S will hear about this. Seriously, I'm so tired of your generation being selfish. I'm tired of him whining when he's bored. I need a coffee and a nap, and I can't even get that. Phone bad, book good. Why newspaper no work when touch like my Apple iPod? Anyway, she droned on for probably a good 5 minutes before I hung up. She left 5 voicemails, but I just don't even want to bother listening to them as I already feel my last brain cells dying. Thank you for the post. And our next post is by user Stargazer728, titled, How an old rain jacket became my defense against an entitled mother. This happened about 2 months ago, before all this COVID-19 lockdown. Get a load of that guy. To give some more preface, a long time ago I got an old hand-me-down jacket from my uncle who happened to work in the prison system. This jacket happened to have a DOJ Federal Bureau of Prisons logo on it. I've worn it many times and it's always garnered some interesting reactions from people. I just so happened to be wearing this jacket for our encounter with the entitled mother. Now on to the story. Me and my fiancé went out to grab a bite to eat on a Saturday evening. As we ordered and sat at our table, we decided to play with our Nintendo Switch, which apparently is entitled Mother Bait. While we waited for our food, they must have read this story before this. Epic. After a few minutes, I had to go and use the bathroom. About a few minutes after I left, according to my fiancé, some lady, the entitled mother of the story, came up to our table and had her child, the entitled kid, sit down in my chair, which prompted this exchange. Entitled mother's like, "Excuse me, did you mind watching my kid? There's no kids play area here, and I saw that you had a Switch for him to play. What games do you have on your Switch? Do you have Fortnite?" Entitled mother starting to walk away is like, "Have fun." My fiancé, putting the Switch inside her bag, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I didn't agree to watch your kid. He's your responsibility. Also, I don't trust people I don't know with my Switch. But my mum said I can play your Switch." Entitled mother to my fiancé says, hey now, don't be like that. It's hard being a single mom. Plus you obviously have the means to entertain my child, so why not help me out, help me out." So my fiancé is like I said, I'm not responsible for your child. I didn't even invite him to sit here. Please leave, please leave. Now you listen to me. I know the owner here. I will have you thrown out if you don't watch my child. As the entitled mother is yelling this, I happen to be walking out of the bathroom towards the table where my fiancé was. As I'm walking up to the entitled mother, sees me coming and notices the DOJ logo on my jacket. A smirk crossed her face, and as I got to the table, the entitled mother says to me, "Now you look like someone in law enforcement. This rude lady here is refusing to give my little angel her Switch to play with after she promised to do so." Me, cutting her off and with a stern voice, "Is there a reason you're harassing my fiancé and trying to take the Switch that I bought for her?" I watched as the entitled mother's smirk give way to a look that said, "Oh crap." She quickly grabbed her child and made a beeline to her table. The entitled mother didn't bother us afterwards, outside of a few stolen glances. We got our food, ate it, and left after finishing our meal. I was glad I picked that day to wear my uncle's old raincoat. Edit, holy crap, this blew up. But to give more detail about the jacket, I got it 15 years ago, and it was old when I got it. I never really had any issues from the police officers when I wore the jacket outside of a conversation about where I got it. There are times though where I will have somebody nervously ask me if I work for the prison system and breathe a sigh of relief when I tell them no. I wonder what makes them nervous. It actually is quite rare for me to wear it, considering that 98% of the time I wear other jackets that I have. And on to our next post, by Hey, It's Demons, It's Me, entitled Grandmother Thinks It's Okay to Take My Items Without My Permission. Back when I was a freshman in high school, my grandmother thought that it would be a good idea to take my belongings without informing me while I was at school. To elaborate, I had a small table with cubby holes in it that I kept belongings in that were important to me. I had autographs, signed art, and awards that I earned over the years in those cubby holes. I came home from school to go to my room, only to see that the table had been replaced with an enormous dresser. Confused and concerned for my belongings, I went to confront my grandmother about where everything went. This was the conversation as follows. EG is entitled Grandma, OP is yours truly, OG is the oblivious grandfather, who doesn't understand why I was ticked off. So I'm like, hey Grandma, what happened to the table in my room? Oh, I took it out and put it on the porch for a place to put my shoes. I hope you don't mind, OP. Look, I thought she was joking because why the hell would anyone use a table as a shoe rack? We already had several by the front door and I didn't think she was serious. But I went out to the porch and, sure enough, there it was. decorated with shoes, potted plants, and empty mason jars. I then come back inside to ask where my belongings were and what she did with them. I'm like, if you wanted my table, you could have asked when I got home. Also, where's my stuff that was inside of it? At this point, my entitled grandmother starts to get defensive and tries to avoid my questioning. Grandma's like, I wasn't going to wait for you all day to come home. I have a lot of work to do, and you should feel grateful that I replaced your table with a desk. Yeah, she thought that the dresser that she got me was a desk. I looked at her, still trying to decide if she was serious or not, and she was. I tried to explain to her that a desk has legroom and doesn't have a drawer that a dresser has for you to put clothes in. She wasn't hearing it. However, I wasn't either, and continued to ask her where my belongings were until she finally gave in and told me. Why do you care so much about those things? It was only several awards and other crap. I had to do something with them in order to move that table, so I put them in a box while you were at school and moved them to storage. What the hell? You took my stuff and put it in a box without telling me? Don't use that type of language in my house, OP. I'm gonna smack the head out of you if you use it again. I don't give a frick if you smack me. You took my crap without even letting me look through the box to see if I wanted to keep anything. Not long after my grandmother and I started arguing, my grandfather comes into the room after hearing us argue outside. He had been on the phone with a client of his, and as soon as the client hung up, he came in to see what was going on. He's like, OP, entitled grandma, what are you arguing about this time? For context, my grandmother and I never got along well, and this only tipped the boat even more into the water. She took my table and crap that was inside it to use as a damn shoe rack when she already has 3 of them by the front door. OP, you shouldn't talk to your entitled grandmother like that. I've noticed how disrespectful you've been getting around the house towards her, and you need to straighten up your act. Upon hearing this, entitled grandmother tries to play the victim card and starts tearing up, voice cracking and everything. OP, why are you always so angry at me? Have I not done enough for you already? What do I do to deserve this kind of treatment from you? Please, tell me. Don't pull that crap with me, entitled grandmother. You've been doing it every time I catch you doing something crappy, just so you don't have to take responsibility. My old grandpa gets furious at this point with me. He disregards the fact that his wife had stolen my belongings and starts going off at me. OP, look at what you've done. You need to learn to respect your elders. You've always been a good granddaughter, but this is unacceptable. I can't believe how you're displaying yourself right now. This is my household and you are only 15. 15 or not, entitled grandmother stole stuff that was important to me. How would you feel if I went into your room, took your clothes and stuff out of it, stuck it in a box while you were out of town, and told you that I put it in a storage room and replaced your furniture with something else that serves no use to you? Well, I would feel grateful that someone would take the time to think of me and spend money on me. See? Entitled grandmother is thankful for things in her life. Why can't you be, OP? You need to learn how to be thankful for what others have done for you in life. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere. What do you think your boss would say if you spoke to him like this? I think he'd have some common sense to know that you shouldn't steal other people's crap, even if they aren't in the room. I had ended up storming off and could hear OG and EG talking about how rude I was. The storage area wasn't too far from my house, only down the road, so I walked there the next day and couldn't find the box that my grandmother was talking about. To this day, every time I try to go and see if I can find the box, I believe that my entitled grandmother threw it away and tried to come up with something that would get me to stop questioning her. Update: I have edited out repetitive statements in the post. If it looks different, this is why I apologize for the edits that I made if it confuses anyone while reading. Update 2: Whoa, I did not expect this post to get this much attention. Also, thank you, kind soul, for the award. I've seen all of your comments and I can understand why you suggested that I needed to get over it. However, I will say that while this is true, I had important belongings of mine that were taken away without my knowledge. The most important being my signed artwork I have done over the years and given to actors to sign while at conventions. I don't think I can ever get over losing those. I'm also taking into consideration editing my grandfather's name, since some of you have pointed out mistakes that I made while addressing him as oblivious. It seemed like a good way to describe it to me, but that's just how I saw it. And other issues concerning the story. Thank you again for your comments for pointing out some stuff within the post. Alright, and that's where I'm going to leave it today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of r/entitled parents. Tell me what you thought about it down in the comments down below. I'd love to know your opinions on everything that we read today. And as always, this has been Marky. I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Bye!